With a transfer window about to slam shut, you've got the transfer Grinch and the transfer aficionado keeping you abreast of all the exciting goings on at Ipswich Town and further afield. Welcome to Blue Monday, an Ipswich Town podcast. Well, Joe, this was supposed to be a little bit of fun. I've got a reputation of being pretty miserable about transfer deadline day, but even I've got a yellow shirt, and I can see you have as well. We've rebranded. I was going to say you were at the Jason Dozzell book launch last night. I was at the East Anglian Women's Derby. But in the last few minutes, it's gone absolutely crazy. Can you try and help us and keep us up to date as well? I was not expecting this amount of drama. Joe, what's going on? Tell us.
Okay. Well, all day it seems as though the Armando Broja link is back. It sounds like it's going to get done. It just seems to have been edging towards conclusion over the day. There was some talk about Emmanuel Latte-Laff earlier. And then in the last half hour, we've signed Tudor Mendel from Anderlecht, who's a young kid, maybe for the under-21s. It's now been released that we are in advanced talks to sign Reece Nelson from Arsenal on loan, which then means effectively we can't sign Armando Broja on loan because that would then be a third domestic loan. And the the Reece Nelson deal has now been reported by Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein in The Athletic. So that is your sort of two carte blanche journalists. Or
legit.
Yeah, so that is presumably happening. But then does that mean we're working against the clock? Because I think Oscar's just put in our Telegram group, which I'm trying to stay on top of at the moment. Effectively, Nelson comes to Ipswich, which means Sterling can go from Chelsea to Arsenal. And then if we can get a deal done for Broja, a permanent deal done for Broja, then that Chelsea can then afford to buy Victor Osimhen from Napoli because they need about 70 million. So that could be potentially what's happening, but we don't know. But it has just and Freddie Ladapo's just had his contract mutually terminated as we were pressing the go live button here because he's got to find a club. George Edmondson is close to a move to Middlesbrough, and we're going to need to find somewhere for Marcus Harness, potentially Ali Al-Hamidi.
Graphic for Edmondson, there you go. There's a graphic for Edmondson.
Jack Taylor, Marcus Harness. It's. I think because if we signed Broja, we were going to be 4 over the limit. If we signed Broja and Nelson, we're going to be 5 over the limit. So I can't see that both get done, but he is the one that we want to. He's the one that we want to get done. It seemed all day, and then there's talk that he's out for 3 months. So it's just been a mad sort of 25 minutes.
I don't like the transfer window. The silly stories that the start of the window. Let me rewind back to the start. Who was the Newcastle guy that we were linked with right at the start in team talk? I forgot his name.
Almiron, was it?
Yeah, Almiron. That was it. And that's the kind of bollocks that I've got no time for. But now it gets exciting when the window closes, and Ipswich are finally part of it. We were going to reflect on the window as a whole. There is a poll in the YouTube chat if you want to tell us your rating for the window, or let us know in the chat. But this is what it's about, Joe. This is the kind of stuff we want. We want deals getting done. So we will be here. I mean, I'm not saying until 11 o'clock. It's 9 o'clock as we record, but we're gonna stick this out and see what happens. But we've got plenty of people in the chat who are trying to keep us informed. If you need to stick your hand up, Joe, and say, do your Fabrizio Romano impression and interrupt me, please do. But let me say hi to the chat, who is very active. Neil is here. Reece Nelson, WTAF. I think that's chimes with the kind of reaction that Joe had, I think. Let me just change the branding a little bit. There we go. Kernel Blue. Tractor Boy, are we going to end up with no number 9, he asks. Edward, now linked with Leicester. In my opinion, we spent too much time on the Broja deal. Well, not done yet. Kernel Tractor Boy. Charlie D, this is mad. It really is. Michael is with us as well. Is Ed going to make a late play for the number 9 shirt? Eric sums it up. I'm so confused and excited. Yeah, it's exactly, I think, where I'm, Philip said, Broja deal still on. It's getting exciting. Joe, let's talk about the definitive stuff. Freddie Ladapo leaving to join FC Mutual Consent. Not a surprise, but we must pay tribute to the contribution that he made, particularly for the League One promotion. We forget the 20-plus goals, but some really important goals in the win over Cardiff, for example. Someone that goes and continues his career elsewhere with our best wishes, right?
Yeah, he was a guy effectively that was signed to help us get out of League One, and he did a brilliant job. That scored 21 goals in the season, and if you think for the second half of that season, he was mostly a sub, coming on for George Hurst in that game, and he really suited our game when we were playing against low blocks, really deep defences, dominating the ball, having a whole ball effectively in their third of the pitch, and we need someone who could hold the ball up, play with his back to goal, spin, score goals, and he did a brilliant job for that. When we moved to the Championship, we turned into more of a transition team. It was just too much for him. He did his best, but he wasn't really up to the quality required. We tried to replace him in August, September, and we weren't able to in the first window. We did manage to get Kiefer Moore and Ali Al-Hamadi over the line in January to replace him, but he was sort of pushed out the door before we even replaced him for 2 or 3 weeks at Charlton. I'm sure he'll find a club quite easily. He scores a lot of goals. There's a massive dearth of good number 9s in the Championship in League One at the moment, so he'll easily find a club, and yeah, he deserves everything he gets. He dropped down from the Championship to League One to join us, and he leaves us in the Premier League and with a not pay packet effectively to see himself through. It's we just moved as a club too quickly for him, and I think that you're going to find a lot of people that's the case for, and he was sort of very obviously one even in the Championship season.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, enough respect for Freddie. We wish him all the best, and as Joe said, a big part of what we've done, but he's not going to be the first player that is going to our new status is going to be beyond where he's possibly at. So we wish him all the best. Richard, thank you so much for the super chat and a donation for me. Having to deal with the window, he says. Thank you for that, Richard. Your generosity in supporting the podcast. Appreciate that. Joe and I both wearing yellow as well, which has been noted by Eric. Uneasy seeing Town fans in yellow. Yeah, I did go looking for the old Copa one from, is it 78 possibly, the yellow one, and sadly time has played a cruel trick on me and it just doesn't fit anymore. So this is a mystery kit box Joe shirt, this one, and I have no idea about it. So don't ask me, but I think it's a Dutch team. So
long sleeves as well.
Long sleeves. Kelmy. I don't know if they're a good brand or not. I think they're still going, but anyway, there we go.
I know a guy who's follows them because I think he had a good Football Manager save with them, so he's picked up a couple of their shirts because of that. So
there you go. And David, massive support as well. We appreciate this, David. This keeping us going. Thank you so much for your continued support of the podcast as well. If you want to do likewise, there is a button in the YouTube live chat to do it, but a thumbs up will be fantastic. Whilst we're live, that brings other people into the stream. It increases the conversation and keeps the debate going. But please subscribe if you haven't as well. Business as usual once the transfer window shuts. That's the real meat. That's the real quiz, as it were. But David, thank you so much. Richard as well. Thank you, guys. Joe, whilst there's a little bit of a hiatus, I've got Seb as kind of my watcher for us in the WhatsApp. But if you've got Telegram going, again, do stop us as we go. But Ben did a really great video on his channel about the is 12 signings too much? It could end up being 14 as of tonight. I just wanted to flash up. We've been using these squad depth charts all summer. This is the kind of situation that we started the summer with. If you ignore players who have departed on loan and that kind of stuff, and there's a few players there in red that were expected to move on anyway. Ghassan Ahadmi, Idris El-Mazouni, Cameron Humphreys. I think we were expecting probably to go out on loan, which he has. Burgess is red. Don't know why. That's just a formatting error. But Ndaba there as well. And what's left is pretty light on the ground, isn't it? No real cover at left back. No real cover for Chaplin at 10. No cover for Burns really. And the right wing spot, and we know that Broadhead obviously a little bit of an injury doubt. The recruitment was necessary, wasn't it? It's not extravagance yet, is it?
No. I think we needed about 9 players just to get ourselves up to a 25-man senior squad, and McKenna we know likes to work with about 27 first team players, so that's 25 of a couple of youngsters. So we knew that we were going to be at least 9 before anyone went out, and the fact it's gone. I think some people are very surprised it's more than 5 or 6, but it was always going to be at least 9 or 10. So the fact that we've gone over a little bit is, I wouldn't say a big shock, but I think if we go 2 more tonight, it becomes a big shock because there's 14 players who all probably Connor Townsend aside you'd expect to be starting the majority of games, which they obviously all can't do because there's more than 11 of them.
Yeah, and I guess
So I just do a
yeah.
Where we are now is effectively TWTD and EADT are saying that Nelson looks like it's happening, and I think TWTD say Blues have been on the lookout for another attacker since the Breuer deal broke down yesterday. Town and Chelsea revived talks regarding that move earlier today, but as reported yesterday, the Blues had made inquiries to other clubs regarding alternative signings. So this is a replacement for Breuer. EADT are now saying Breuer is looking unlikely. So
I've got Seb
see where we are on that.
Less and less likely. It's worth saying, we haven't said it yet. We're kind of 11 minutes in. Canal Tractor Boy reminding us that the window slams shut. I think I might have mentioned it in the intro, but if not, we have to say it anyway. Going back to the kind of squad depth thing, I guess it's maybe the Ogbene signing. Joe maybe pushed a few people from, this is a good amount of recruitment, the kind of 9 players that you were talking about to get us to kind of parity. Maybe that pushed people a little bit. Oh, is this too far? But as we talked about, there's no real cover for Burns at right wing, and now he's got an injury as well. So I wonder whether that injury situation maybe made that deal happen, that maybe it wouldn't have had if he'd stayed fit.
Yeah, I think it's it was. I personally thought we were always going to sign a Burns replacement, or Burns backup / replacement, because he's such an important role to our team. And when he doesn't play, we really have to shift the whole thing around. But it didn't seem to be happening. Then all of a sudden, Ogbene was reported. It was one of those ones where it was reported and it was done. I know it wasn't announced for a couple of days afterwards, but it was Ipswich interested in Ogbene, and then 12 hours later, it's like, job done. Here we go, done deal. So that didn't surprise me too much personally, but I think the surprise is that we'd already signed Hutchinson, Smodics, and Jack Clark, so that looks like they're free behind the striker. But we have to remember that we use 8 forward players in every single game here. So Jack Clark, Sammy Smodics probably are competing for one starting spot in there, with Amari Hutchinson generally playing centrally now. So I'm not in a huge tiz about having too many players, because I don't think we do have too many players in those roles. Because you look at in the games we've had so far this season, Marcus Harness has had to come on in every game. Ali Al-Hamidi has come on in every game, and they're not of the standard of the Premier League yet.
I was taking a strategic drinks break and you caught me out there, but I put the for those listening on podcast, we put the kind of, as of 8:30 tonight, this is the squad depth that we have. And there is much more strength and depth, obviously. There is a little bit of bunching there. But even those attacking positions, as you say, Joe, there is a lot of flexibility there to move across the positions, isn't there? You said at the top, you expect Harness to move on. Ladapo is obviously now gone. But even Smodic, we know, can play on the left side as a 10, maybe not as an out-and-out winger like Clark. Hutchinson, we know, can play across the front 3 positions too. So we know McKenna likes that flexibility, and so that is there too now, isn't it? It's not a case of players maybe competing for one position, maybe they're competing for 2, sometimes even 3 positions.
Yeah, and it is just Kieran McKenna likes his weapons there, doesn't he? And he likes different options there. He likes to have a dribbler. He likes to have somebody gets in behind. He likes to have somebody who drops into the space. He likes to have a finisher, and he's got a hell of a toolbox now there of different items to use. And like last year, we were bringing on Caden Jackson was a very regular sub for us, and sort of no disrespect to Caden Jackson, but the level of Ogbene and Burns, as opposed to Burns then Jackson, is a huge step up. And I say, the only worry, and I guess it's probably harsh on these guys, is Wes Burns, George Hurst, Nathan Broadhead. Their injuries have been quite badly timed, and it may see that those injuries effectively cost them a chance to earn their spot in a Premier League starting team. So, but we haven't got time to not mess about, but we haven't got time to wait for them to get fit. We can't play Marcus Harness for the next 4 games, and while we're waiting for Wes Burns to come back, and we can't play Ali Al-Hamidi every game waiting for George Hurst to come back, and same with Harness again on the other side with Broadhead. We have to attack this. There's 38 games. We've had 2 already. We've got 0 points. That was expected, but we can't just keep waiting for things to work out. The stakes are too high. Staying up is everything. Yeah, and you look at how much money we've spent. We're now this will put us well over £100 million when you include what loan fees you've used for players. So we are giving it as good a go as we possibly could. There's no. So I imagine when Ed Schwartz flew over to see Kieran McKenna at the start of summer when we were trying to make him stay, this was a sort of window that was promised him. And I can't imagine that Kieran McKenna is going to sort of die wandering, is he? On this?
No, exactly right. And Nick Ames is our mate Nick Ames. We spoke to him on the pod a few weeks ago. He's an infrequent visitor to our Telegram group, but even he was sort of saying this is not the time to gamble either on fitness or players making the step up. This is if you want to stay up, and that is, let's be honest, prime target number one. Then I think this is strategic recruitment with that in mind, and potentially the future if the worst didn't happen as well. So he seemed pretty confident that we were going down the right lines. Do you want me to put the graphic back up on where we're at? I think people might have spotted a few glitches and issues, but it's more about the kind of depth really in positions in there. We think Edmondson will move on. O'Shea and Wolfen are two players for most positions, isn't it? Maybe Taylor moves on as well, perhaps, but that's generally what we've got, isn't it? It's looking pretty good.
Yeah, and the only places where it looks like there's more than two players for is at right back, which just by some quirk we seem to have Johnson, Clark and Tuan Sabia, but Clark is injured. And then the striker position where we've currently got three there with Hurst, Delap and Al Hamadi. And it looks like that might be what we go with for the season if we're not going to have Breuer getting over the line now. And then we've got 9 effectively for the 3 roles behind the striker, and then you expect we'll probably lose Marcus Harness, so that takes that down to 8.
Yeah,
and that's probably about right. I think McKenna always wanted 10, at least 10 for those front 4 roles, and as it stands, we're going to have 11 here.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Al Hamadi, Joe. If the Breuer deal doesn't get done, are you? It was a debate we were having on Telegram, wasn't it? Actually, earlier. Are you comfortable with him being the kind of third choice striker? Is he gonna? He's coming back from injury. I think we keep forgetting that he had surgery in the summer, didn't he? And was struggling last season with it. Are you confident enough with him as the third choice?
Just about. I think ideally you would have another striker in there.
Breuer.
Ideally you'd have Breuer. But if Breuer's injured for 7 weeks, 12 weeks, we've had both of those figures mentioned. If he's injured for that long, then it doesn't really cover us between now and George Hurst getting back to fitness, which is what we need. So there was sort of talk with Latte earlier today, but that doesn't seem to have gone anywhere. And I think approaching Middlesbrough at this point in the window was going to see us if we wanted him, we were going to have our pants pulled down to get him. And do you want to spend what probably would have been £25 million on him? Or do you just think, how much better is he than Ali Al-Hamadi? Probably a good chunk better than him. But if George Hurst is back sort of during the next, they said, I think there's 4 fixtures in there before the next international break, and they think that he'll be ready during that break. So you'd assume it's maybe another couple of weeks off, and he came back really quickly last time out, didn't he? He came back and started that sort of fantastic Hull game in April last year. So I think if you can't get the right guy, you're just going to have to ride with what you've got, and Ali will have to cover sort of 20-25 minutes here and there. But there's other options. Sammy Smodics can play that role. Reece Nelson has played up front when he was younger, but I think he's sort of a winger now, isn't he? So we'll see on that. But it's really, I think if Nelson signs, the problem for me is you've got probably Smodics, Broadhead, Clark and Nelson, who all want to play from that left-hand side, cutting in on their right foot. So that's where it's a little bit overloaded.
Yeah. Let's dip into the chat while there's a little bit of a lull of breaking news. One deal that I think a lot of us were expecting to see happen, Joe, was actually a retention, contract extension. Martin asked, what's the story with Davis only having 1 year remaining? I think we were all expecting another contract to be offered. And are you surprised it hasn't been? If it has.
I'm not saying it probably has been, but if I was Leif Davis, I probably wouldn't sign it yet, because ultimately, why would you? But we've got a year's option on top of that, where if he signs one now, he's probably going to sign another 4-year contract. And then it sort of ties him here, where he could sit it out for 6 months. And if he has a brilliant Premier League season, like he's had a brilliant League One and brilliant Championship season, then he'll get a bigger contract either here and if we can't afford it, he'll then could push to move elsewhere. So he's one that, I don't know, if I was his agent, I'd be saying, don't sign anything yet. Just leave it, see how things play out, and go from there. But we do have an option on him. So whilst it is 1 year, it is the club have to have him for the next 2 seasons. He's not out of contract this summer.
Yeah, fair enough. Matt, don't understand why we signed Ogbene if we were going to go for Nelson. I guess the chess pieces kind of are moving in simultaneously. It's not a good analogy because it obviously move one piece at a time in chess, but you know what I mean? Things are in motion, aren't they? And it's difficult sometimes to understand what's happening. And sometimes you've just got to get stuff done, don't you, on the basis of what you know there and then. But any thoughts along Matt's concern there? Or
I think Ogben is more a Burns, very, very similar player to Wes Burns, just that explosive pace, right wing back, right winger, gets up and down the line, where Nelson is an attacker. He's not, if you're playing him in that position, it's like when you play Amari Hutchinson there, he's not there to get up and down the pitch and be able to drop in as fullback and that side there. So I don't think those two would be linked in any way.
Okay.
Apparently, Sky Sports News is reporting that Broja is not happening. Broja is not happening.
Is off. I need a no deal kind of graphic, but I don't have one. I did have the opposite, by the way. I had to hedge my bets, so that is off. There you go, confirmed. I won't put that in the scroller at the bottom, but there you go, confirmed as of 21-23. I also need to apologize. I keep getting Ogbena wrong. Ogbena is what we're going with, isn't it? Thank you, Joe, for correcting me there. You were the first member of the pod team to be pretty confident on the level of spend, the triple digits of millions in fees, Joe. That's the case. The Sky Sports net spend league had a second behind Brighton, which I think is probably a surprise to most people. Trevor asks, hope the club has got PSR under control. We've been pretty confident throughout the summer that we will have, but these deals keep nudging us towards a danger zone. Is that maybe an exaggeration, but you can understand Trevor's slight wariness, perhaps?
I wouldn't have any worry on PSR for us this year. We know exactly what we're doing. Even in our last accounts, we had we put in there the FFP figures, the actual FFP calculations of how close we were or how far away we were from the limits that we were able to spend. So it's obviously something that we work very closely with, and we're not going to go over it in our first year. The problem with it won't be PSR. It's if we get relegated and you've got FFP, effectively would be more of a problem, that you're going to need to have a couple of big sales if we go down. But I think every Premier League club is in that position now.
Yeah, and even if we do go down, I think Ben made a great point. It's been talked quite a lot. These are all players, apart from maybe Smodic, whose value or should be maintained and maybe even improves on the back of Premier League football, isn't it? So if we were forced to sell to comply with FFP or PSR, that shouldn't be a problem if the worst were to happen either, isn't it?
Yeah, you just have to make sure some of your young players have a good season.
That's true.
That's all you've got to do, and then you can sell one. And when you look at how they've started, like Jacob Greaves, Liam Delap have both started exceptionally well, I think, in the first 2 games of the season. And while they were bought for 15, if they carry on like that, they're worth 50 in a year's time.
Exactly right. Neil here, chucking in Derby in for harness rumour on X. One of the disciplines that I try to instill in the Telegram group and fail often is please cite your sources. It's often that something gets posted on Twitter that turns out to be bollocks. And I'm not saying that's the case, Neil, but if you can give us an idea of the number of followers that the account has, or if it's a name that people know, that would be helpful. But no surprises that Harness is being linked with moves elsewhere. Just dipping back into the chat. Here we go. Martin, no burst Ancelina link. No, not just yet. You might find his chances a little bit limited anyway. Sarmiento is being mentioned in the chat. Tommy, sad about Sarmiento. Would have liked him back. I think you're in the same boat, aren't you, Joe?
Yeah, I would have done, but that once we'd signed Jack Clark and Sammy Smodic, there was no way back for him, unless you're Reece Nelson and you're another right-footed winger.
Like for Arsenal, yeah.
Yeah, it's a shame, because I would have liked to sign him, but I don't think anyone could argue that Sammy Smodic and Jack Clark aren't better than him. They were the first and second in goal contributions in the Championship last season. And whilst we loved Sarmiento and he had a great loan spell, and he looks like he's gone away, had a brilliant Copa America and a good pre-season with Brighton, it's just that little sadness that we haven't. It felt like Martin Reusser when he
Yes.
was here on loan, and we signed him when we went up last year. He felt like that guy that popped up with the big moments, but no, not to be. But obviously, hoping he has a great loan spell at Burnley, and maybe our paths can cross again in the future.
You never know. Yeah, well, it's a great mentioning of Martin Reusser, who made his debut against
Fulham
and scored a last-minute winner, didn't he? So, well, it's not to be Sarmiento, but maybe someone else might do that tomorrow. There's plenty of people who will be making their home debut at the very least. Did you watch the AFC Wimbledon game, Joe? Do you want to give us your take on Jack Clark? I was excited. Were you?
Yeah, no, he had a lot of good moments in there, didn't he? He does like to sort of come back, cut inside, get onto that right foot, but he gets himself in really nice position, gets into the box. He's very unlucky. I think he made a nice run and tried to pass it to Ali Al-Hamadi, but the ball just didn't quite have enough on it to get through to Ali, where some nice moments. But yeah, considering he'd only signed, a day or so before and probably had one training session, it was a really promising debut. And I think anyone who looked at the Championship last year, and you see Jack Clark, you see Sammy Smodics, you see Jacob Greaves, these were the absolute top players in that league, and players who would be getting a step up to the Premier League. And it's just fortunate that it's able to be with us.
Yeah, worth mentioning the guys talked through the AFC Wimbledon game and the signings we've made in the last few days on the pre-match show. You can check that out, Mikey and Seb, also giving you all the intel ahead of the Fulham game as well. But so do give that a look. Matt, expressing a sentiment that we see a lot as well. The number of signings isn't a huge issue for me, but trying to integrate and gel everybody into our way of playing could take time. And Joe, everyone and his dog are seemingly being given international call-ups as well this week, which doesn't help over the next few weeks either, does it?
No, like I say, you ideally want these on the training pitch, don't you? And working with us, getting there, but nearly all the new signings, so you got Muric, Ogbene, Smodics, O'Shea, even Amari Hutchinson, Liam Delap called up into the England under-21 squad. There's just a massive players going away this year. So it's, a little bit frustrating, but this is what it's like in the Premier League. All the players in the Premier League are internationals. And if you've got anyone who's not English, they're generally going to be an international in your squad.
I'm just a bit cynical that I guess Slicker might have got call-ups last season, but why didn't Hutchinson get an under-21 call-up last season? And now we're Premier League. It's like, it's obvious, pick them when they're in the Championship.
I think that he was on the fence between whether to represent England or Jamaica. So he played for England at under 19s level before, and then he had been called up to Jamaica to their full squad, played 2 games for them, 2 friendlies, and if he played a third one for Jamaica, that meant he was going to be tied to them. So he turned down international call-ups. He said from England and Jamaica in maybe the March international break, because he said he wanted to basically just concentrate on his club form and his fitness, and it was his first senior season, so he didn't want to commit to it. But I think that was probably quite a convenient way of just pushing the decision back to the summer. He was subsequently not in their squad for Copa America, but I think they tried to call him up, but he pulled out of it, and now we see why he's now in the England under-21 squad. So yeah, fantastic for him, and I think he had always been holding out for England, and I don't think he expected to probably maybe get there this quickly, but both him and Liam Delap both called up, and they're the first Ipswich players to be in England under-21 squad since Connor Wickham back in, I think, 2010, maybe 2011. And before that, it was Darren Bent, Darren Ambrosey, and Westlake, Matt Richards, Ben had a huge number of calls up, and I think is one of their all-time top scorers. But yeah, we haven't had players at this level for a long time, where you look up the road at Norwich, they've had a lot of players in this England under-21 squad, and it's nice because these are real gold standard squads when you look at the players there. They are not, it's not like sometimes where they're quite weak squads. These are all top players, and to have 2 of them on the books is brilliant. Yeah,
agreed, and a lot of other players as well to other countries as well. It's good. It's good. Another acknowledgement of our new status. Seb is confirmed. Fabrizio Romano confirming that Sterling to Arsenal is in its final stages. I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I guess it's probably a good thing in terms of Reece Nelson.
And they all have to. Apparently, all the deals are relying on each other. So Sterling, Jadon Sancho, Sterling, and Reece Nelson are all reliant on each other.
So what you're saying is we are just as important, if not more so, than Arsenal and Man United, Joe, in this moment.
And then on the EADT live blog, the East Anglian Daily Times and Ipswich Star understands that Ali Al-Hamadi is set to stay at Ipswich Town. So he's the one that stays, which means the end for this window, at least for Marcus Harness, Jack Taylor, George Edmondson, and as we already know, Freddie Ladapo. But
Yeah,
we
and
haven't heard anything really about Harness and Taylor other than the Derby link. I thought I'd heard Marcus Harness to Millwall mentioned at some point.
I can't confirm I can't confirm specifics, but I have been asked by a other content creator about Ali Al Hamadi today, in anticipation of a deal that they thought was getting done. We provided some intel to Middlesbrough fans about Edmonton as well. It's weird how this stuff now works, but there's a lot of frustration and annoyance about the League Cup exit. But if you're not, if we don't end up finding moves for these players, is the loan window open for a bit longer, Joe? And I guess season-long loans aren't possible, but emergency loans, is that an option for some of these guys?
No, they're gone. So
Right.
I think
Not registered then.
there are some windows that are open, maybe like Russia, but I don't think we'd be allowed to deal with those anymore. I don't know how that is. And the Saudi window stays open, but I don't think Jack Taylor will be going to Saudi Arabia. So, well, maybe he's mates with Ivan Toney. He could go and join him over there, ex-Peterborough teammates. But no, you really, really hope we're not in a position where one of these guys is not being registered for football for the first half of the season. That would be really, really sad and really unfair on them. So McKenna hope that isn't the case.
McKenna mentioned it in his pre-match press conference as well, that we've got, there's not a duty of care, those weren't his words, but you want to do right by players that have got us to where we are, and that means not consigning them to essentially the reserves because we haven't got any competitive football because we've gone out in the League Cup. So yeah, interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, there won't be a single game they'll be eligible for.
No,
because the next cup game is in January. Yeah, and when the window shuts.
It shuts, and these are players' careers, isn't it? So you can't stand still for 6 months. Rose here talking about Tudor Mendel-Idowu, Joe. That news kind of broke before we went on air as well. Do you want to give some info on him? That feels like it's kind of a development type move, but very highly rated, and another ex kind of Chelsea link there as well, isn't there?
Yeah, ex-Chelsea, born in Slough, like Armando Broja. So it looked like maybe two from Slough were coming in. He's a sort of left-footed right winger, probably similar to Amari Hutchinson style. Very, very skillful, direct, quick runner. Played for England under 16s and under 17s, and left Chelsea to go to Anderlecht. And I think he's played a few games for their under 23 team, and maybe playing the Belgian third tier. So it's not a guy you expect to come into the first team. He's a developmental loan, but just his off the pitch stuff is what's really interesting about him. He's effectively a child genius who was child prodigy. He won a King's Scholar, or he's a King's Scholar at Eton. So he went to Eton as a King's Scholar, which I think there's only about sort of 12 of those in the country or probably across the world that go there. And he is currently at Oxford University studying classics. So he is following in Boris Johnson's footsteps as a King's Scholar at Eton and a classics scholar at Oxford. So maybe he'll be the Prime Minister there as well. But I just read a quick interview with him, and he's obviously quite an intelligent, a very, very intelligent guy, I should say. If I just pull up what he said, it was a question about football and academia have not historically been considered bedfellows. How do your teammates view what you're trying to achieve? He said, when you're trying to combine two worlds which are regarded by many as diametrically opposed, it's very difficult. Not everybody wants to or is willing to simultaneously pursue two such paths. I think it's come to the point where my teammates respect my dual endeavours, but largely due to my footballing quality. As long as I keep performing on the pitch as I do, I don't think they care too much. And this was when he was 15. And at the time he was reading, they asked him what he was reading, and he said, I'm currently reading a collection of essays by a writer called David Berlinski. It looks at the shortcomings of materialistic thought and how it affects society, past and present. It's a pretty hard read, but ties into what I'm doing at school, as we have this course called Perspectives, in which we discuss a range of topics from politics, philosophy, ethics, and law.
Oh, well, I read a book a week, so I've heard about your Dostoevsky, Joe. There you go. Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I feel like it's one we need to get on the pod, surely, if it happens. But in terms of the situation there, is that a permanent deal that we're looking to get done, and it's one that will kind of get Stuart kind of process over the weekend or something? Was I reading?
Yeah, I think the club said they'll announce it after the weekend, but it's done. I assume there's just obviously so much going on with these other deals they're trying to tie up, so that one isn't going to be announced this side of the weekend, but it is done. He's at the club.
He's there. Done. If I wanted to, I could get a graphic up, but I'm not going to do that. Eric Hitchmo asking about Latte Lath again. Obviously, that deal it wasn't a deal. It was a very intense bit of speculation. He hadn't then travelled with Borough squad to Cardiff and now has joined up with them. But Eric kind of asking, will we do a Hail Mary if Breuer doesn't come off, noting that we're still maybe light in the number 9 position, Joe? It feels like that ship has sailed now, isn't it, or not?
Yeah, it doesn't seem like we ever got particularly close to it. And it's funny because he's been a player that a lot of fans have mentioned over the window, but the club has never been linked with him because he seems quite a good fit. He scored against us at the end of last season, had a really good second half of the season with Middlesbrough. I think he scored 18 goals in his debut season. That was probably only across about 30-90. So really, really, really good. And he looks like one who's going to go well this year. A little bit smaller than our normal striking target. I think he's about 5'11", but got a great leap on him, as he showed with the header he scored against us last year, and really mobile, gets about the pitch well, and so probably most importantly, the system Middlesbrough play under Michael Carrick is very similar to how we play under McKenna. So he looked like he'd be a really good fit for the system, and then nothing had really been said about it. And then today it broke, and it sounds like we put sort of a bid up to £20 million in, and it was quickly rebuffed by Steve Gibson at Middlesbrough. But I think that was one that, if you wanted him, you probably needed to go a little bit earlier for him, because Middlesbrough start the season, as they always do, quite slowly, but they are one of the favourites for promotion out of the Championship. And you sign him now, and they've either got to take Ali Al-Hamadi back on loan, or they just try and find a striker from nowhere on the last day of the window when everyone knows they've got 20 million to spend. So it's a real difficult deal to do.
No, exactly right. And just looking at the poll, by the way, in our YouTube live chat, please get involved if you haven't already. When I last checked it a few minutes ago, 60% rated us at A, which I classified as a good window, 70% A plus, a great window, perfect window, but B, 20% C or below, 3%. So generally, Joe, people satisfied, and quite rightly so.
Yeah, it's a window that if you'd have said to somebody in January, at the end of the season, we're going to spend over £100 million by the time the window starts, we're going to sign 3 of the best players in the Championship last season and Amari Hutchinson. So probably the 4 of the top 10 best players in the Championship last year in Greaves, Smodix, Clark and Hutchinson. I don't think anyone would complain, would they?
No, exactly right.
And we would, like, people were talking, the figures they were expecting was sort of like 60, 70 million, weren't they? They're saying, I reckon we'll spend about 60 million. And I thought, after we'd signed, obviously Amari was the first signing, and then we were linked with Greaves and Philogene in that double deal. It's like, that's going to take us to 60. And even once we got to sort of about 60, 70, I said, we had like 80 million on the table for Flynn Downs, and we had that money on the table for Jaden Philogene. There is money there. This is going to get us to 100 million plus, but yeah, it just keeps going, doesn't it? It keeps going and going. And Calvin Phillips as well.
Phillips,
and like I say, like you've got transfer fatigue in that. When we signed Ogbene, it's almost like, oh, we signed him. Yep, good. Where I sort of almost forgot to tell my son we'd signed him. He's like, oh, we've signed this guy. It says on here, Ogbene. Who's that? And I was like, oh, yeah, we just signed him. And that's an £8 million signing. That's like our 8th most expensive transfer in the history of the club.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. It's weird how we got blasé about these figures now, isn't it?
I think there's 10 signings, which are our 10 most expensive signings ever, or 9. So I guess just because we signed Amari first, and he was our first one, he was our record, that you sort of forget how big these are. But had we signed Muric first for 8 million, and then signed Smodix for 9 million after that, and then signed Dara O'Shea for 12 million, then signed Jacob Greaves for 15, then signed Delap for a little bit more than 15, then we signed Hutchinson for 18. We kept breaking that record, but it's gone the other way, hasn't it? But
yeah, we peaked as soon as you say, but it's close to, if we got that number 9 in that Breuer deal, I think that would have made it an A-star kind of window. That's the only seemingly missing piece, but there's still time. There is still time, folks. The window is not slammed shut yet, but it is slowly, what's the word, teetering down or whatever it is. I don't know what I'm getting.
It's currently ajar.
It's a jar. There you go. Seb helpfully reporting that Twitter account, an ESPN journalist with over 350,000 followers, reported Nelson on his way for a medical. And Seb adds, hopefully the A12 is quiet. It should be at this time of night, but maybe roadworks.
I've driven back from Clacton earlier and it was quiet at that point. So
there you go. Giving you all the info. We're going to take a little bit of a pause. We're going to hear from our friends at Atwell's. We've got lots of good stuff in the chat. So I've marked a lot of questions to come back to. We're going to stick around as long as we can, and hopefully we will conjure a done deal. But it kind of feels like maybe we're going to be timed out a little bit. We'll linger as long as we can, but we've got Fulham in the morning, so we'll see how things go. But stick around. We'll be back shortly after hearing from Atwell's.
Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com.
Thank you to Atwells for their continued support of the podcast and our friends at One Stop Badges as well. We have taken, or we will soon take delivery of some Blue Monday little pin badges. So if you bump into a member of the pod team on a match day, there's a good chance, if you ask nicely, we'll have some in our pocket and we'll let you have one. So thank you to One Stop Badges for sorting us out there. And if you want promo items, badges, keepsakes for your brand, charity, business, etc., give them a shout. There's a link in the description. It'll get you 10% off, courtesy of Blue Monday. In terms of other bits and pieces, we mentioned the pre-match show that is available to watch back. You can get all the intel on Fulham ahead of the game tomorrow. Also, the prediction show with Ben and Mikey. You can get their take on what they think the score will be for the Fulham game and the rest of the Premier League programme. And as always, Flagship Show back Sunday night, 8 p.m. Whether he knows it or not, Joe is on the pod along with Dave, I think, and Ben looking back on the Fulham game after the fact and any other deals that we haven't had time to talk about tonight. As always, please give us a thumbs up. Thank you to the folk who have left podcast reviews of late as well. Thank you to the 5-starers. We appreciate that. Thank you very much. And please subscribe here on YouTube and get involved. There you go. Joe, anything that's happened in the last 40, 50 seconds?
Freddie Ladapo has just put a message on X, a leaving message saying, "Never had such a bittersweet moment like this one. A club that brought my dreams to light and wonderful moments shared with truly great people. I wish the best for the players, fans, and everyone connected with the club. You deserve every good that's been happening."
Oh,
so
what
nice message from Freddie to leave there.
Yeah, Uber ITFC Colchester about to make an announcement. Could it be Freddie? It wouldn't surprise me if Danny Cowley's been on the phone with it, but keep us posted, Uber ITFC and anyone else. But yeah, God bless Freddie Ladapo. What a guy. Let's get back to the chat. Got a few people. Oh, Harps. Hopefully, we're manifesting here. Perhaps don't be surprised for a last minute curveball. No one expected Nelson.
Surely he was the last minute curveball.
Harps is the curveball, perhaps. I don't know. Richard, also the PSR debate we were having before. Club has been so transparent on PSR. I have deep trust in their competence under the new ownership. A lot of mixed feelings on the Breuer deal. See London here, not too upset. Trust McKenna. Having seen Delap, hope perhaps we can do better in January. And Delap Hurst, decent focal point. I guess, Joe, Delap's early form leading the line away at City as well as he did, and even Liverpool. Not afraid to get stuck in, is he? Scored a good penalty. He did score a penalty midweek, didn't he, as well? Maybe the thought is he comes in as a right-sided forward, but actually no issues with Delap leading the line, is there?
No, and I think maybe the right-sided forward is something that maybe some fans, including myself, thought was more the case. He looked like he was coming in potentially as that, and maybe that's why Ogbene joined later in the window, because we realised he is going to be a centre forward, and we're not going to be able to do better than what we've got in Liam Delap there as well. So it's he looks a really good signing, and I think with Delap and Hurst, if they can both stay fit, then brilliant. And it would be hard to manage Delap, Hurst, and Breuer if you have all three of them here. True. Because one of them each week is not going to be playing. So. And you'd imagine that would be George Hurst initially if one's going to be a £30 million signing and the other's a £15 million signing. So it's just one of those, isn't it? I really like Breuer. Me and Craig did the pod just before he was about to sign what feels like a year ago, but it's probably about 10 days ago.
It's your fault. It's your fault. You said it right at the start.
I did say if something's gone wrong, don't blame us. So don't blame us.
Telegraph reporting Harness to Derby on loan. So a lot of people had said that in the chat. That appears to be close according to Seb. Thank you, Seb. Let us know if anything more formal comes about, but that looks like one departure which we anticipated. And championship move, good for him. I think someone said in the chat Portsmouth were keen to make that happen, but good luck to Harness. I thought he said of the players that have come back for pre-season that were maybe question marks, he's probably had the best pre-season, Joe, and early cameos from the bench as well. So good luck to him.
Yeah, he's got his Premier League debut, hasn't he? You sort of feel a bit sorry for him because he's worked really hard in pre-season. I think he put a message on Instagram, didn't he? Like, I've sort of fought my way here. I'm not going anywhere. And that he had to delete sort of shortly afterwards. So it was, I don't know, it was tough. He's probably really upset that he's had to leave, but it's a great opportunity at Derby, a really good club, good manager there in Paul Warne, and it's got Caden Jackson there as well. Two guys who sort of played big parts as squad players getting us promoted, but realistically in the championship last year, towards the end of the season, he like a Coventry away.
Even in the squad,
he wasn't even in the 20-man squad. So it's not a surprise that he's one that's left. I hope he looks like he's had a fantastic pre-season. So I imagine he's got himself super, super fit, and maybe that will help him at Derby to really push on and try and have a good season and get himself a nice move off the back of it.
Yeah, obviously he came into the club having mostly played on the right-hand side for Portsmouth. I wonder whether Warne might fancy him in his old position. He'll be up against Caden Jackson for that starting rather. I think Caden Jackson's been more of a 9 there, but yeah, we wish him well if that gets confirmed.
I think Harness at the time showed the sort of ruthlessness we have in the squad, because we signed him for a decent fee in the summer, 600,000 it was, which in League One, I know we're talking about spending 100 million here, but the sort of 600,000-700,000 we dropped on him in the summer at Portsmouth was a good sign and took their best player off them. And then in the January, we went and signed Nathan Broadhead for 1.5 million over the top of him, and then Broadhead became the guy in that position.
And now Jack Clark's coming in. It's like, Russian dolls kind of thing, isn't it?
Yeah, and now, Sammy Smodics has come in above them. Jack Clark's come in above them. Reece Nelson potentially coming above them. But just quickly, Dharma Chef at Sky is reporting that Arsenal's Nelson opts to join Ipswich. Latest from Sky Sports News reported Dharma Chef. Reece Nelson is shown to join Ipswich on loan from Arsenal. The final formalities are being sorted to allow the winger to move to Portman Road for the 2024-25 season ahead of Friday's 11 p.m. deadline.
Good stuff, Joe. Thank you. And Seb has reported that Fabrizio is that here we go tweet about Sancho to Chelsea. So everything appears to be lining up, but it's not done until it is done. Very quickly, you mentioned deals at League One level, 600k. Kingy here, can you explain how we signed a championship top goal scorer for 9 million and Birmingham signed Stansfield for 10? I mean, feel free to answer the question if you want. I guess my thought is, what are Birmingham doing in League One with spending money like that? And it's a great signing for them, but it just seems a bit odd, doesn't it, Joe, that situation?
Yeah, they it's funny because they were a team that had terrible ownership, sort of circled the plug hole of relegation from the Championship and just kept avoiding. They finally got these new owners pumping millions of pounds into the club, into the city of Birmingham, almost trying to turn them into a Champions League level team, the amount of money they're trying to put into them. And that's the year they get relegated. So they end up in League One. And I know they're saying 10 million quid here for Jay Stansfield, but I think they've spent about 11 million quid on other players. Well, I think they've spent about 20 million so far this summer in League One. And when Ipswich were Checkbook FC and we spent
money
about what did we spend? About 5 million quid.
Net spend was like nothing, wasn't it? With Daryl's move and Dozzell.
Yeah, I think the net spend was quite low, but you're still talking. We probably still spent on fees, probably sort of 5 or 6 million quid over the year. I think Clark, Broadhead, and Davis were all over £1 million. And then
Morsey was chunky, wasn't he? And
I think Morsey was only about 100k, but we were taking on his contract. But and we were seen as the money-based team. What, Birmingham down there? 20 million quid in one window.
Yeah.
And are they going to win the league this year? If they don't. And they've got a rookie manager in there, haven't they? I know he's a highly rated young manager, but I don't know. It feels a big risk, doesn't it, down there? It would be you probably almost want them to struggle to not get out of that league and stay down there a couple of years, because if they're a team that are coming, like if we're back in the Championship at any point and they're in there with us, I think they get like something like 25 million quid's worth of sponsorship each season. This these new owners are pumping into the club just there, which obviously sounds a bit dodgy when you look at it. It's a bit Man City, but they have come in with massive plans and they're putting their money where their mouth is.
Yeah, buying up huge swathes of land around the stadium as well. Very, very ambitious. It feels like there's a new guard, isn't there? New set of ownership, a lot of American ownership, of course, which is something we know all about as well. That's happening out there, isn't it? So we'll see how that goes. I mean, just briefly on Jay Stansfield dropping down to League One. I mean, it's a club that he knows, well loved there, of course. But in terms of a career move, he could have done better than League One, couldn't he? I'm not saying Premier League, but
yeah, it doesn't seem, because he played for Fulham in the Premier League a couple of weeks ago. I think on the first day of the season he's played for them, and I say he's a player we'd been very interested in a few times. But I think maybe if we were in a Championship and had that sort of money to spend, it might be one we'd have been in for. But it seems quite a big. It just seems quite a big drop to go down there, doesn't it? To go down into League One. But then we took a lot of players dropping down into League One, and it's worked out perfectly for them. Well,
yeah,
exactly
exactly
not now, because they're now all getting replaced.
Exactly right, yeah. But in theory, yeah, good point. Yeah, fair enough. Jeremy asks some interesting keeper moves. Ramsdale to Southampton today. How do we now view our deal on Muric? I'm not putting words in Jeremy's mouth there, I hope. But I guess there's a lot of question marks over Muric because of last weekend. But that's... in principle, Joe, we were very happy with that move. Are you still happy with that? And other deals that have happened around it? What's your sense?
It's interesting that it seemed like Kyle Rushworth was our big target in goal, and Brighton didn't want to do a permanent deal on that, and he signed for Hull on loan now, so he'll go and be a number one at Hull. So that showed the level of goalkeeper we were happy to try and get, which is a guy who's now going to be effectively in a promotion tilt in the Championship. So Muric had an excellent season for Burnley in the Championship. Didn't play as much last year. When he did play, made a couple of high profile errors, but made a lot of saves. But I think you have to look at the package, don't you? Because Aaron Ramsdale has signed for Southampton, and that is a fantastic sign. He's a brilliant keeper, but he's 18 million quid, and he had to be on 100 grand a week at Arsenal, you'd have thought, wouldn't you? So he's not going to be taking a big pay cut. So I'd like to know the total package that Aaron Ramsdale is costing Southampton. But yeah, if they were the similar fees, similar wages, you'd take Aaron Ramsdale over Aro Muric. Yeah, he's an excellent keeper, but I don't know. It just seems a strange move for him. He was starting for Arsenal sort of this time last season, and now he's playing for a team who
could get relegated.
Who could very, very easily get relegated. And then he could end up in a Championship, and who's going to sign him at that point? I don't know. It seems a strange career move.
Yeah, and there was a crap link to Jack Butland. Did you see that at about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock? 12 million apparently, which he's had a kind of similar career trajectory, didn't he, Butland? Or am I thinking of someone else who went to United? I don't know, but I agree with you. If the deals were the same, you'd go for Ramsdale, wouldn't you? But I think Muric has got a lot more to give, and I say that because I bought the new keeper shirt with his name on the back of it. So I'm talking about manifesting. There you go. I need to say thank you to Neil B #CLondon. Even edited the name for you, Rich, as you always ask. Thank you so much, Neil, for your support of the podcast. £10 in the super chat. We appreciate that so much. Thank you for all of the super chats so far to Richard and to David and to Neil. You can do likewise, as we said in the live chat. There's a little button there, but just a thumbs up, folks. There's a lot of you here. Thank you so much for all your support and the chat. We will linger. Joe, how long? When's bedtime for you? Ahead of a match day, are we sticking around till? We can't stay around till 11, can we?
I'm happy to stay as long as we need to stay, Rich. So.
Wow, until the job is done.
Just a quick update as well. Just another one.
Oh, yeah.
Ryan Taylor, who's a football reporter for the Daily Mirror, 35,000 followers on X. He's just tweeted, Fulham tried to execute late deal for Arsenal winger Reece Nelson. With straight shootout between them and Ipswich Town, who are on track to seal straight loan. Fulham now in advanced talks to beat Everton and Nottingham Forest and Lyon's Ernest Nuama. So it was Fulham, Everton and us there. And it sounded like it came down to us and Fulham, and he's chosen to come to us.
Shove it up your arse, Fulham. There you go. We'll see you tomorrow. We'll face off then. Yeah, we'll announce him on the pitch as well. Just as I need to be really careful, don't I? I'm stopping that line of interrogation. Although I've got form, Joe. Evening to Colin is with us. We need a 9. He says, surely, Joe and Rich. I saw you at Carrow Road giving it the big one last night, Colin, and well might you, because Ipswich Town women absolutely dominated Norwich. That 4-0 scoreline in the end was massively flattering. But great to see you in the away, and he probably didn't clock me, but that was a great night. And Sophie Peskett, a worldy goal for number 4 as well. So check that out. But do you get behind the ITFC women's team this season? They've done some pretty amazing recruitment themselves. All those players coming in and contributing already as well. But yeah, that was fun last night, Colin, wasn't it? So good. Anything else, Joe, that's happened in the last whilst I've been talking about ITFC women? No.
You were at Ipswich Town Women last night. I was at the
the Jason Dozzell
for
thing.
the book launch of Jason Dozzell's book that he's written with Stuart Watson. Really, really good night. Jason spoke sort of very movingly about his life, and I think I've started to read his book. I think it's going to be a really, really good one. He's signing copies of it in the fan zone before the game tomorrow. So anyone who sort of wants to have a nice bit of, well, I think it would be quite a harrowing read at places, but a really, really interesting career. He's grown up in really tough circumstances and gone on and sort of had the world at his feet football wise, had a fantastic career at Ipswich, went to London. Maybe the bright lights of London were a bit too much for him, and he sort of went on a spiral from there, hit rock bottom a few years ago, and he sort of fought himself back up to a really, really good position now. So yeah, it's really, really, really looking forward to reading that.
TWT reporting the harness to Derby loan as well. But yeah, and an interesting point, Kieran Dyer was it Kieran Dyer last night talking about this, the kind of where Dozzell stands in the pantheon of homegrown players, and he had very strong.
Well, I think it was actually in all players. He actually said after the sort of 70s and 80s team, so like since the end of the Bobby Robson era, effectively, that Jason Dozzell, he thinks is head and shoulders the best Ipswich player in that period, not just for the most talented, but the best player for longevity, achievements at the club, and like I say, he's in the top 10 for appearances and goals at Ipswich Town. So yeah, he's a really, Kieran Dyer couldn't speak more highly of him. He said whenever Kieran Dyer trained with the first team, he started training with the first team when he was 16, and he said he always felt he was the best player at the club for the whole time. The only time he didn't was when Jason Dozzell signed. He said Jason Dozzell was the only player he trained with Ipswich who he thought was better than him.
Well, there you go. Did you enjoy the goal montage, by the way?
Yeah, I watched that probably about 400 times going round. Yeah,
lovely stuff. I'll try and share that. That it got blocked on YouTube because I put some Premier League footage in there. I can't believe they care after 30 years, but I'll try and share that because quite a lot of headers that I don't remember. So good stuff.
A goal from my very first ever Ipswich Town game in there against Blackburn Rovers.
Nice. Yeah, I cut some out from one of my first ones as well. But yeah, some great memories there. And yeah, do support Jason Dozzell. Do support Stuart Watson as well, who's been basically ghostwritten the book from what I understand as well. Been really heavily involved, and that's been in the works for quite some time. I did Life's a Pitch when it was on Radio Suffolk with Jason Dozzell a few years ago, and it was in the works even then. So yeah, I'm sure very fascinating, as Joe said, maybe a challenging read as well, but really fascinating for one of our own, as it were. So go and support that. And the George Burley book as well coming out soon as well. We'll be speaking to the author about that as well soon. So a lot of good stuff out there for Town fans. Let's bring things back up to date. Nobody, not nobody, because we can see you. Nobody. Delap and Greaves have looked absolute class signings. Hutch, Ajay Clark, capable, smart, will sniff out goals. A few newbies needing knitting together. Oh my, what a window! Very happy is nobody there. Whilst we continue, Joe, go for it, Joe.
WBA report, who's they're quite a big West Brom channel, are saying that West Brom are pushing to sign Ali Al-Hamidi on loan from Ipswich. Carlos Corberán is backing the move for the 22-year-old striker. So that conflicts with that we've been told he's staying. So it's maybe there is some movement on that, or maybe it's just slightly dated info. But we'll find out.
We'll keep an eye. There you go, Joe. I've lost my place as well. I was gonna, to help Joe and I stick around a little bit longer, I'm gonna put the effort on to you folks. Give us the one player that is signed in this summer window that you're the most excited by. One name. If you want to give us some working as well, very happy. Joe's even got a yellow drink. Good old Joe. He knows the score. But yeah, give us your one
Can
name.
I just confirm for the podcast listeners that it is orange squash, not a
Orange squash.
dodgy yellow drink?
No comment. A bit of Reef. Do you remember Reef? What happened to Reef? That's a whole other podcast.
Too many straw pedos were done with Reefs.
Straw pedos. Those are the days. Someone mentioned Liquid the other day as well. God, I miss Liquid.
89p on a Monday night in the Golden Lion.
Days. Yeah, a bit of Me and Seb can. There's a whole podcast on WKD Blue and all that kind of stuff. We'll bring it back. Cheeky Vimto. Neil Wilmore, in Craig's absence, sticking the knife in. This isn't going to hurt me. But Neil, Player of the Year, Rakeem the Dream, released by Burton. We love and respect our podcast team, Joe. But is Craig gonna ever live down making such a bold claim about one of our signings as Rakeem Harper?
No, that was a bold claim. But he did look really good that day. But he was really. It's
Colchester.
Amazing how sort of poor he was, really, wasn't he? He came in the team, barely played, went on loan to Crewe, then went on loan to Exeter, didn't do anything at either of those clubs, signed for Burton. I don't think he really got in the team there. And it's just, like for a player that's got so much raw talent and just physical, looks such a player, doesn't he? And his career has just dwindled to absolutely nothing. But
yeah, poor guy.
He was a central midfielder who just did not get involved in the games.
Yeah. Yep, and again, confirmation, and it's true of anything in life. Talent alone is not enough, is it? And we wish him all the very best as well. Obviously, that's someone's life and livelihood and career and stuff like that. But it's just interesting to see how former players have moved on. I think hopefully I've got all the super chats. Someone's saying I might have missed one. I'm trying to catch up. We're a little bit all over the shop, but hopefully I've called everyone out who's done one of those. But there you go. Here's Suffolk Crunch. A question for Joe. You can ask me. Ask me a question. Harry Clark left out the 25 question mark, so Taylor can be put in. A little bit of squad Tetris possibly might be needed if we can't shift everyone out, Joe.
I just don't think you're going to leave someone out of that 25-man squad who is available, because it's just such a kick in the teeth for a player to say you're not going to play any minutes until January. And I think even if you think like with George Hurst last year, it looked like he was out for the season, but he was named in the squad and did come back for the last sort of 3 games of the season. But it's just, I just think it's not the done thing in football at all to do it.
Fair enough. I did miss a superstar. Richard's been back again. Appreciate you, Richard, so much. When asked us a question as well, which I'll now put to Joe. Maybe I should answer it. I'll let you have a sip of your drink. Which is that what I can hear fizzing away there, Joe? Do you drop a Barocca in there as well to double the orangeness of it? When Burns and Broadhead are healthy, Richard asks, what is the depth chart on either wing in your opinion? I think Clark is the first choice left-sided player. I don't think that's in any doubt for me. But the right side maybe more of a question mark in terms of Burns and Ogbene.
Yeah, I think at the moment, if Burns is injured, Ogbene's got the chance to make that position his own, and we'll see whether he's able to do that. And if he isn't able to do it, Wes Burns will come back into the side. And then on the left, it's Clark. I think Clark or Smodic, really, isn't it? I think they're the two that you're going to see mainly there. But remember, we're signing Reece Nelson as well, so he's going to be a number one somewhere. Yep.
Tommy asks about our ITFC women staying at Felixstowe for the foreseeable. Yeah, hopefully another game at Portman Road this season as well. But the Martello ground, as it's now been rebranded, is very much their home. But great for Norwich that they were able to host us at Carrow Road, but didn't really sell particularly well. And then they were scored on their own backyard. It was great walking through Norwich in a Town shirt last night, Joe, because usually it's just such a stupid and grotty, horrible experience as an away fan at Norwich and the East Anglian Derby. So the women's game much more chilled out, but there was a knobhead on the train who did heckle us and say, I think your team is shite. So that was a part of the great experience before we then smashed them 4-0, and it could and should have been more. There we go. Should we do a bit of a recap for everyone? David asking, what have I missed with Broyo? Is that not a goer? Joe, are you able? We've kind of stuff that is definitive is scrolling around the bottom, but for the purposes of the live stream, Broyo's deal is not going to happen.
It doesn't seem to be.
Doesn't seem like that needs, something a major. Someone used a Hail Mary before. I'm going to say that I use that word. Needs something pretty major to be plucked out of thin air to make that happen. Freddie Ladapo has parted ways with the club and joined FC Mutual Consent and done a very eloquent and very emotional and lovely reaction to the fans for that news. We wish him all the very best. It feels like Marcus Harness to Derby on loan is pretty close, if not done. We're still waiting confirmation.
Stuart Watson has just tweeted, set to be a busy final hour of the window for ITFC, closing in on season-long loan for Arsenal winger Reece Nelson. George Edmondson set for Borough loan. Marcus Harness set for Derby loan. Will need to be one more exit to stay within the 25-man senior limit.
Okay, well, we're going to stay as the numbers keep growing. So if you're watching this back on demand after the fact or listening to this on the podcast, this is like an epic. God bless you. Thank you so much. Please give us a thumbs up, but we'll give you a thumbs up. I'll give you a double thumbs up if you're sticking with us. And Joe's done it too. He's got 2 thumbs and loves the transfer window. That guy. Moving on. Is Rob. How do medicals work with deals this late? They kind of run up and down the pitch, don't they, Joe? And
just touch your toes, have the doctor cup your balls and cough.
We should have done the Breuer deal on deadline day, and then it would have been fine, wouldn't it? We'd have made it happen. But Kingy saying TWTD is crushed. Well, if you're trying to get back on TWTD or getting practice on TWTD ahead of trying to get Oasis tickets on Saturday morning, you're very welcome to join us here on the live stream, and we'll keep you informed of what's going on. Hopefully our internet hacks it. A lot of people confirming or backing up Joe's news story that West Brom are linked with a loan for Ali Al Hamadi. Feels like that needs to a striker needs to come in for that to happen, Joe.
Yeah,
that's Nelson.
It feels like you need that Armando Breuer deal to come back. Like the EADT, their live feed says Armando Breuer deal looking like it's off again. So it doesn't. They've rode back a little bit from where they were because it is off, and now looks like it's off.
Looks like.
So there's a.
We need a
gentle.
We need a tracker, don't we? Kind of the. I tried to come up with like the chart of it goes from def info to kind of imminent to off and all that kind of. Anyway, can't do that. Haven't got the graphics. Haven't got the time. A few of you are now giving us your signing of the summer. I'll come to you on this, Joe, in a second as well. Neil going Jack Clark. I'm particularly excited about that one as well. I'm not sure he'd be my number one, but I can definitely see why Neil excited about that one. Richard go for Sammy Smoditz. Matt, Kieran McKenna. Yeah, good call, Matt. There you go. Is Neil Calvin if he gets even gets to 80%? Wow. Kev Wright, also McKenna, Eric Hitchmo, Jack Clark as well. David going for 2. We'll let you because you've had a super chat, David. We appreciate. He's going for Greaves. Greaves is a great shout, by the way. I'm impressed with Greaves so far. He's excited about Smoditz as well. Chris Rand, Phillips, surely ? Yeah, I think. Well, we know where Ben's loyalties lie, don't we, in terms of the signings of the summer. Adam Flat, Far and Ice. We'll get Seb on the podcast. Seb used to work at Far and Ice. True story. That's one for another day. Ian, go for Greaves and Clark. Neil, Liam Delap. Jeremy reporting Southampton have signed Ryan Fraser, presumably on a permanent, making that loan deal permanent. Fine. I'm not sure I'm as excited about Ryan Fraser as I was when he was bursting through at Bournemouth and came to us on loan and then starting out at Newcastle. He had a okay game at Portman Road, if I remember rightly, but fair enough, decent enough.
Yeah, good player, but he's probably a little bit. His career hasn't gone to the levels it looked like it was going to at one point when he's come through at Bournemouth. He sort of went to Newcastle, and unfortunately for him, the manager that he pissed off at Bournemouth turned up at Newcastle. So
another life lesson about not burning bridges, folks. There you go. Amanda Smoditz, glad we freed Sammy. Going to score loads for us. Did you make it to Man City and then, Joe? Did we talk about that or not?
No, we haven't spoke about that. Yeah, I did, but I'm not allowed to talk about it.
Fine, we won't talk about it then. Moving on. I've got an injury from my limbs for the Smodich goal. I'm not sure I celebrated a Town goal as much as that in a long time. Obviously, Sarmiento is up there. Maybe an away goal that might be up there.
It was a hard angle to see whether it was going in or not, wasn't it?
It was so cruel
really
how long
slow.
it took as well. But yes, he's already got up and running, as Amanda's saying. So, Matt, here we go. Just got back from watching Alien Romulus. Great film. Delight with the Arsenal youngster. I assume those are separate points. But welcome back, Matt. Hope don't have nightmares. And because no one can hear you scream. Uber ITFC, I agree with Craig about Raheem Harper. And oh man, my Muric thing is going to backfire, isn't it? And got him on the back of my shirt, says Uber ITFC. Never judge a player on pre-season. Oh, there you go. Oh man, I'm feeling bad. Trevor, WBA mugged us with Raheem. No, we move it on. Any other signings sticking out? Yeah, Alex Smodic as well. A lot of love for Sammy Smodic. Or is it Sam Smodic now? I think I feel like
seems to have had a rebrand, doesn't he? Yeah.
Andrew Cole situation there. Yeah, Alex says, like Chaplin was for us 2 seasons ago. Kingy has to be Greaves. Absolutely brilliant addition. Played so well against Liverpool. Certainly someone who will only go up in value. Totally agree with that. And Rose says similarly. Here's Kieran. Finally, family is in bed. So Blue Monday on the big screen with some popcorn. I hope you're entertained, Kieran. That's all I can say. We're going to do our best. David's joining us at 10:05. Everyone's coming back from the pub now, aren't they? Or Alien Romulus. And thank you to the 500 odd watching on YouTube, according to Chris Rand, who's watching the stats for us. Lovely stuff. Joe, I've exhausted, I think, all the nominations provided by the chat. Who would you single out as your signing of the summer, apart from
it's difficult because there's some fantastic ones, but for me, Amari was the one I really wanted after how he finished the season last year, and he's just carried that on, started the season well, and I think he's going to be a fantastic player for us. And he's a player that is worth that we bought for 18 million, and he's one that could be worth 80 million. He is that good, I think. So yeah, he's probably my favourite. But I love Jacob Greaves. Has looked unbelievable so far. Calvin Phillips, what a signing that could be. Fingers crossed. Jack Clark, Sammy Smodics. Yeah, the list goes on, doesn't it? Liam Delap, I've been really, really impressed with so far as well. I think he's sort of reminds me of George Hurst, where he seemed to come in. The club losing him didn't really seem to care that he was off, and it seemed like at the time the price was a little bit high for what it was. But within a couple of games, I think, no, this guy is the real deal. He's going to be a perfect fit in our system, and he is that sort of unicorn striker, the guy that can battle up against defenders, can hold his own, can win his headers, win his battles. But he's also got that pace to get in behind. And it's just, I think when we had Kiefer Moore up front last year, he did a fantastic job in helping us get promoted and was exactly what we needed at that time. But when George Hurst came in for that whole game away, and you thought, oh, wow, this is what we've missed. A guy that can go the whole way across the pitch, can get in behind, and it just turned us into a totally different team. And I think Liam Delap does that for us as well. So
yeah, great shout. I mean, the Amari deal to me was kind of a real statement as well. I know it's a player that we knew and loved, and the fee, but the fact it was from Chelsea, the fact he chose to come here, there's so much about that psychologically that kind of set our stall out for, we are not going to dick about, we're going to give this a good go. So I quite like the Hutchinson deal more for what it meant or what it meant and kick-started at the start of the summer. But the chat just refreshed it, and a load more people's comments came back through. So I'm gonna do another rush through. Suffolk Crunch, Jacob Greaves, Neil going for McKenna again. A lot of love for Greaves from Horse Hunter and Jeremy. Looks a real deal. Richard as well. Greaves. There you go. Amari says Cloud Reacher. Phillips. Yeah, a lot of love. Smodic as well. Seems like there's a those three. David Bergen mentioning Edouard going to Leicester. I think that was kind of expected. I wonder whether, Joe, we would have stuck in there if we knew how the Breuer deal was going to pan out, or would that have been a loan? I think
that's a loan. Yeah, that's
with a view to a buy, isn't it? So
loan with a view to a buy. So yeah, Nelson. We've obviously think that Nelson trumps all these other options.
Joel says Delap was the most underwhelming / overpriced signing for me, but after watching, is it taking us on a journey here, Joel? After watching his first 2 games, he'll be the signing of the summer. There you go. I love taking us on a journey there. I like the look of him at Man City, and that turn on the spin on the ball and run at Liverpool as well, I thought was quality. So I'm excited to see what he can do. Jules talking about Whittaker. I think I saw him linked with Burnley, scored a kind of interesting goal against QPR. That was never going to happen really once. Well, he's not going to get in now, but do you reckon we would have looked at him again, Whittaker, Joe, or kind of feel like that ship has sailed perhaps?
Yeah, but we know as a club we like to go back in for targets, but maybe he was seen as maybe a championship target, and once you get to the Premier League, you have so many more options open up, because there is a worry that does sort of play as a luxury player, and are you going to be able to get a lot more out of him than that?
Yeah. Bagul, talking about Kajust. Have we settled on a pronunciation? I'm going with Kajust, I think.
Kayusta.
There you go. We're gonna keep gambling until he does one of those Premier League videos. Looked promising to me on Wednesday, says Bagul. I agree. I thought someone put it early in the chat. Apologies. Let me see if I can scroll back and find out who asked the question. But let me ask.
He started the game really well, didn't he, on Wednesday? And he did fade out of it, but a couple of nice bursts and got back and defended well.
Martin asked about 28 minutes past 9. About 28 minutes past 9. Morsey and Phillips tomorrow. I mean, does Kajust does he have a shout after? I guess it's AFC Wimbledon, but we didn't win it. But who's your midfield too? I bumped into Sean, by the way. I'll make Sean Telegram regular who said Morsey and Luongo tomorrow.
That would probably be what I'd go with. I've been speaking about the team back and forth with people all week, and I think you're going to go Muric in goal. I think Axel right back. Wolfie, I think, gets another game, because I don't think you can put O'Shea straight in there. He played 90 minutes on Wednesday, which makes you think Wolfie and Greaves get another go at the back. Leif Davis left back, and then midfield it's Morsey +1. And do you go? Like I say, you've got 3 options. You've got Luongo, who is the guy that knows the system, who probably is the fittest of them all at the moment, but is a guy who probably isn't going to start that many more Premier League games for us after this window. Then you've got Calvin Phillips. He's a big signing. I'd imagine he's costing us a huge amount of money for the season, so you want to get him up to match sharp as soon as possible. And then you get Jens Kajusta, who's coming from Napoli, probably looked a little bit more impressive than Phillips on Wednesday, but you don't know what they've been asked to do. Is it just 60 minutes? And like I say, I've watched enough sort of under 21s for when senior players there, and you know that they're in there just to get their heart rate up, try and move it about and go from there. So I say I'd probably go with Luongo in there, but if it isn't going to be Luongo, I'd say Calvin Phillips. You want to get some minutes into his legs, don't you?
I agree. Yeah, that would be where I'd go as well. I also think Tuanzebe plays right back as well. So and Clark comes in for you, or
no? I'd go with Ogbene on the right to keep that shape, and then Hutchinson and Smodics with Clark. Because then you look at the subs coming on, you got some real quality coming off the bench, don't you?
Yeah, exactly right. Well, as we mentioned before, the pre-match show went into a lot more detail, so we're not going to cover Fulham too much. We might end towards Fulham, perhaps. But yeah, check out the pre-match show for a much more insightful overview of the Saturday's game, and a lot more intel on Fulham as well. If you don't remember too much about them from last season, or where how they've changed over the summer. But it sounds like we're beating them to Reece Nelson, which is a positive move, if you ask me. Hello to our friends in the States. Nikolai Webb watching in New Jersey, just 5 p.m. here. Andy Molnar as well in Boston. Hello to our friends in America. Thank you for joining in, getting involved. A message from George here, Joe. You boys need to stay on till 11. See it through. Go on, got Sky Sports News on mute and Blue Monday on the go. George, we appreciate you. I'm going to go for it. I think we might need to play the Atwell's promo once more. But what say you, Joe? Are you in for the long haul, mate?
Yeah, I'm happy to keep going, because it does seem like stuff is happening, doesn't it?
It does. We need to put a tracker on his car. He's shooting up the A12. Seb has gone quiet. I don't know if Seb's fallen asleep in front of the TV.
Like, I live a stone's throw from the training ground as well. So
get out there, Joe. Get out front of the gates.
Keep my torch out there. But I'd imagine they'll go to the ground at this time, and I don't know, but I could send my wife over there to have a look.
You could get her. Yeah. Fine, George. We're going to do it just because you asked so nicely. We're going to hang on in there, but do keep us posted in the chat, folks. Joe is keeping an eye. I'm keeping an eye, but you are probably going to react much quicker than we can. Shall I play? Do you want a breather, Joe? Shall I sit the Atwell's promo back on to buy some time?
Yeah,
or
go for it.
We're going to sip a drink or so, and we we're going to go for another hour, so I hope you don't mind us sticking a promo out for our friends at Atwell's. We take a breather. I might play the intro again just so I can hear some editors as well. Need to say big shout out to Ed and editors. We, if you are not familiar with the podcast, if you haven't watched us before, our intro and outro music is a song called "A Ton of Love" by the band Editors from 2012 album, I think it might be. And they've given us permission to use that. I've signed lots of legal paperwork, but they've let us use that for free. So bless you, Ed. He's probably not. He was in Sophia gigging last night, but that's what the song is. It's also, there's a link to the video for that in the chat as well. So maybe we'll put A Ton of Love up and buy some time as well. But for now, here's Mikey. Here's Mikey's dulcet tones telling you all about our partners at Atwell's.
Blue Monday is proudly brought to you in partnership with our friends at Atwell Solicitors, your ideal legal partner for work on property or business law. Their client care has repeatedly been recognised as outstanding, and they are people-focused with a plain English approach which sets them apart. They have offices in Ipswich, Colchester and London, and to find out more, head to atwells.com.
I think there's some stuff happening about Edmondson. The Borough Count has just tweeted Edmondson. So Seb did some stuff for a Borough podcast. It appears they've tweeted out Seb's hard work, and therefore we're putting two and two together and thinking that the Edmondson deal might be close. Joe, anything happening?
No, not that I've seen at the moment.
Okay. We'll go back to the chat then, and we'll do a recap. And if you want to give us again your signing of the summer, any working around that, very happy to hear that. There is a poll to rate the summer overall. I think before we go, we'll recap the 120 million odd spending according to Sky. I think that's possibly all in with add-ons. I don't think it's quite that much right now, and amortization and all those sexy words that us football fans love, not quite there, but second highest net spenders apparently this summer. We'll give you the rundown of everyone who's come in the building, to quote Seb, who is still checking out stuff for us. He's still there, but it's gone quiet. So let's go back to the chat. Alex asks Joe, good question this, how many of these signings, these 12 signings as it stands, will have to work out for us to stay up?
I guess probably at least 8 of them, you'd say, wouldn't you? If you get 2/3 right and 1/3. I guess it depends what the floor is to them as opposed to the ceiling for some of them, because if Dara O'Shea is a perfectly serviceable Premier League right centre-back, then that works really well. But if you want people to really go to that next level, you're going to struggle to get a lot of them. But I guess it's the guys behind the strikers are the key. One of those, put it this way, if Phillips and Kayusta don't work out, then we're going to be really struggling because we just don't have anything in central midfield. Where if Jack Clark doesn't work out, but Smodics, Broadhead, Nelson, Ogbene do, then it doesn't really matter. I guess it's those key positions, isn't it? And if Muric doesn't work out, that's a real big problem too, isn't it? So I think it's more the who rather than the how many.
Yeah, now you mentioned Muric, that does strike me with a little bit of concern after last week, but hopefully he's learned from it, and this is the time to learn those lessons rather than later in the season. But I guess someone mentioned in the chat, apologies, I've not put it up there, but scoring goals is a necessity, and we haven't done a huge amount of that. Obviously played pretty chunky teams so far in the league, but you kind of want to fill our boots at Wimbledon, didn't really do that, but scoring goals is an absolute must, isn't it? Whoever that is, we need to be scoring plenty of goals, and those are the signings that need to click, isn't it?
Yeah, and we've got guys, I know they're not proven goal scorers at this level, but in Jack Clark, Sammy Smodics, these guys have scored bucket loads of goals and set up bucket loads of goals in the league below. They come into the season hot. Connor Chaplin, Amari Hudson ended the season with a lot of goals. It's those eight players in those 3 positions that are going to be the ones that we need to get sorted.
Yeah, I'm just uploading a table of all the transfers so we can look at that in a bit. Let me see, where are we? Yes, Neil, incredible window. People were getting antsy a few weeks ago. It's a Premier League squad, he says now. I guess if in an ideal world, Joe, a lot of these signings would have been done early. That hiatus at the start of August, we've made a lot of progress since. It's not easy to get deals done, but yeah, I guess from where we were a few weeks ago to where we are now, it's great. But presumably, we would have preferred to get a lot of these deals done earlier, right?
Yeah, I guess every club would say that if every club could have all their players at the start of the window, they would all do it. But it just doesn't work like that. We did well. We got some good signings earlier. I think the problem we had was we just had too many injuries in pre-season. That really hurt us. Yeah,
and maybe, as I said, set us down a course to bring in other players as well that we maybe weren't anticipating to do. Reece, have a nice evening, Nick. I saw that chat just a little bit too late. Ladapo is going to lead the line excellently. I think he and Hurst will be a great duo. Hurst off the bench at 60, starters and finishers. It'd be great for Hurst to hit the ground running with goals as well, wouldn't it? And build up his confidence, because he's a high potential player, Joe, that Delap's come in and obviously getting the focus at the moment because he's on the pitch, has the shirt. But I think a lot of us hoped Hurst would make the step up, and there's no reason he can't.
Yeah, and I know a couple of people sort of who tell me that the sort of view within the club is George Hurst is one that they expect to step up really well. I think he's one that they think physically, athletically and technically he's a guy that's got a real Premier League profile. So he's one that they hope and expect to step up. It's just you just hope he doesn't suffer more injuries, because he obviously had that bad injury back on Boxing Day against Leicester, and that saw him out for most of this season. And it seemed he just tweaked it against Fortuna, didn't he? But he played till the end of the game, scored a penalty in the shootout, and so it couldn't have been that bad. But obviously he had to be operated on again. So you just hope that he can come back as sort of abruptly as he did from his last injury. That was ahead of schedule, and he came back with a bang, did he, straight into the starting line,
whole game,
scoring goals. So you just hope that he can get a good run at it, because we know that if Ali Al-Hamadi is our third choice striker, if we have to rely on him for a big chunk of the season, it's going to be really difficult. And there could almost be an argument that George Hurst got injured last year because he was having to really carry the load up front on his own, wasn't there? Because Freddie was such a drop off from George Hurst that rather than playing sort of 60, 65 minutes, he was playing 85, 88. And in that lead up to the January transfer window, which we were just trying to get through before we could sign another striker to help him, that's when he suffered the injury. And like I say, it might be that there was just a bit too much loading going on his body, and we can't afford to have that happen again to Liam Delap or him this year.
Yeah, totally right. Yeah, agree with that. Joel, how many of these signings wouldn't have happened if we hadn't kept McKenna? Oh, deal done. Harness to Derby is a done deal, according to Seb, or someone with exactly the same haircut, he says. Come on, Seb. Help me out here, mate. I want it from an official source. It sounds like that's even closer, but if anyone can... Oh, Derby. There we go. Yep, Derby. Let's see if I can quickly copy the tweet. It's going to take... I'm padding for time, but yeah, it's Harness. It's Marcus Harness.
Yeah.
We can actually officially announce a deal by the look of it, Joe. I'm going to let you do it because it's... There you go. Are you calling it?
Yep, 10:26 p.m. Marcus Harness signs for Derby County. They haven't announced it, but it's a sort of silhouette of him in a Derby shirt, and it's very, very clearly him. I think that I don't know whether he was. I think he was there briefly as a kid, because I know he ended up coming through at Burton, which is obviously just down the road. But I think he may have been at Derby before he was at Burton. So I just need to quickly Google that.
Okay, I'm going to call that. I'm very happy to announce a done deal whilst we're on air. Finally, I can update the banner. Finally.
Oh no, he was in the youth team at Coventry and then went to
Coventry and Burton. Yeah. Okay, there you go. So a loan. I guess we'll confirm. I guess it's a season-long loan. Be surprised if it wasn't. With a January recall, Joe. That feels standard.
Generally, that's the case. Yeah, but he's played for us this season, so he can't play for anyone else. So,
good point.
If he is to be recalled, it is only to come back to Ipswich. We can't take him from Derby and send him elsewhere. So it's really important he goes to Derby and does well, because otherwise the season will be wasted.
Harness to Derby confirmed by this podcast before it's even on the Derby, officially on the the name and all that kind of stuff. So there you go. I'm claiming that one. Thank you to Seb, who was very punchy.
Oh, it's announced on the ITFC website.
There you go.
Well now, so
we wish him well.
About it. A quick one. Marcus Harness has joined Championship side Derby County for the duration of the 24-25 season. The attacking midfielder, who has played an important role in back-to-back promotions, which have taken Town from League One to the Premier League, made his top-flight debut against Liverpool earlier this month. He will now look for regular minutes while working under Paul Warne at Pride Park, with the Rams back in the Championship following promotion last season. The club would like to wish Marcus all the best during his time with the Rams.
There you go. And we concur with that message. Going back to the question from Joel, how important, a few players have mentioned it. I think certainly Dara O'Shea mentioned it. How important has McKenna been to getting some of these deals done, Joe?
Yeah, massively important. It is Amari Hutchinson is the first deal done. There's no way we sign Amari if Kieran McKenna's not here. And you imagine a lot of these players, we are a Premier League team now, but we've been fighting off competition for these players. They've not been nearly every player we've signed. We've been up against someone to do the deal with. So we've had to show why they need to come here. And McKenna, I'm sure, has had a huge role in that.
Yeah. Jules, UK, Clark looks like Tarico. That's high praise indeed. Although Tarico played down the right a little bit more. I'm not sure. Anyway, there you go. Someone says he needs a Santa tracker, presumably Nelson. I'm catching up with the chat. Apologies, folks. We've taken a pause a little bit. Porksmith, great question. How does Seb feel about Clark's shirt number? Absolutely hates it, Porksmith. And then I threatened to get it on the back of my pink shirt as well. So still TBC, but as you can imagine, and you knew it by asking the question, Seb very much angry, disappointed, frustrated with that situation. So there you go. Joe, Norman, great question. By the middle of the season, what will be our best 11? There's an element of form there, but if I put the kind of squad depth graphic back up there, do you want to hazard a guess of what you think by start of November, say, our first choice team might be?
I'd go Muric in goal. Right back, I think, is very, very difficult to sort out, because Ben Johnson's obviously been signed on a long contract for no doubt a big Premier League wage, but Harry Clark's a good player. Axel Tuanzebe's a sort of very different option. They're much more defensively solid than either of them. So that one I'll have a pass on. So you assume O'Shea and Greaves are here to be they're both on big 5-year contracts with 8-figure transfer fees. So you assume they're the two that play there. And Wolfie would do brilliantly if he can hold off O'Shea. Left back, obviously, Leif Davis. Sam Morsey with, I think, Calvin Phillips in the middle would be the plan. And then Ogbene, Hutchinson and Jack Clark with Liam Delap up front. Yep. And then you look at that, you got your subs of, well, I haven't sort of really thought about Reece Nelson yet because he's not signed. But you imagine he's going to be one of these players. But yeah, the subs, you're going to have Smodics, Nelson, Burns, Chaplin.
Hurst,
Yeah, Hurst. So you're going to have a huge amount of options.
Yeah, Townsend. Good corner delivery from Townsend, wasn't it, midweek? But yeah, exciting. I think that's a really great shout, Joe. I was going to force you to name your right back, but I won't. I think that's probably the biggest question mark, isn't it, at the moment? And big opportunity for Harry Clark, a fully fit Harry Clark, if he can come back fit before the end of the year. I don't know when that injury is expected to see him come back into the team, but the fact that no one's really staked a claim there, I think it's Tuanzebe's jersey at the moment. But Harry Clark must be thinking, I've got a chance here, which he might not have had otherwise. So we shall see. Neil said you needed party poppers when the window's. I can't wait to turn Telegram back into Matchday Chat kind of definitively. I haven't done it tonight. I need to do that. I'll do that at 11:01, Neil. But yeah, there's some interesting stuff in the chat. Amanda, I think we've the scroller at the bottom should give you all the definitive information that we have, which is Harness and Ladapo out, Breuer not happening, and Reece Nelson is 70 miles an hour and no more on the A12 to come and do a medical at Portman Road. And we don't think, Amanda's question here, Joe, another deal for a striker coming number 9 is going to happen now.
No, the talk is, if this was linked to the Victor Osimhen deal, the talk is that deal is dead now. Chelsea, unless something crazy happens in the last half hour, that won't happen. So it might have been that there could have been a deal to be done for Breuer so they could sign Osimhen, but it doesn't seem like that is happening, which means Breuer probably isn't happening. And maybe Reece Nelson is the guy that wears the number 9 shirt. I think he wore it when he was on loan at Hoffenheim a few seasons ago in Germany and had a decent season there, but he's not a striker.
We're into the last half hour before the window officially slams shut. Stuff will linger on afterwards. We are going to hang out until this, according to my stats, Joe, there are 1,723 people watching the live stream concurrently across multiple platforms. Thank you so much, folks, for joining in and getting involved. This is not how I envisaged tonight going, if I'm honest. I kind of thought it might peter out or something. You know, we might have the Breuer deal and that's it. So to be continuing and going for the full 2 hours, thank you to Joe, especially for keeping going and answering all your questions and giving his insights just on the back of a bottle of Reef. So God bless you, Joe. Thank you for doing this, and we'll stick around. And please give Joe a thumbs up on the YouTube video, or nice comments or what have you, before you head to bed. But we're going to keep going. And on that point, Neil asks, question to Rich: do you get peeved with all the questions from Joe? No, Joe's opinion A is much better than me, but also I'm pressing all the buttons and I can't multitask. I'm useless. So you want to hear Joe's opinion anyway, out of the two of us. I'm pressing the buttons and doing all the nerdy stuff, and Joe would admit that I'm good at that. I'm with different strengths, different needs, isn't it, Joe?
Yeah, I've never tried to host. I think I did once, and I had you all set it up for me. But yeah, there's a lot to be thinking about, reading through the comments. So you need your time for me to talk at length on things for you to sort bits out.
Yeah, Joe couldn't host a successful live stream, you know, probably what spurs him on to answer all your questions the way that he does. Chris asked, this is a really good one. Tanaka to Leeds from Fortuna. Looked an option before we took Phillips and Kayusta. I thought he was excellent in that friendly. I think the fee is something like 3 to 4 million, Chris. Confirm if
yeah, 3.5, I think, yeah.
I think that's great business.
Yeah, no, I really liked him, and he's got really good pedigree. He was the guy that scored the goal in the World Cup, which knocked Spain out, where the ball looked like it crossed the line, and they had to do all those angles showing that it stayed in. That was him that scored that goal. So he's got a great career. I was at my in-laws earlier today, and my father-in-law's a Leeds fan, so I was waxing lyric about him earlier.
Yeah, lucky guy. He's going to watch that. Zorak, to you, when do the 25-man squads get made public, Joe? Do you know that one?
I think because we've not been in the Premier League for a long time, I don't know, but I imagine it will be sort of towards the middle of next week when they're shown. But we'll know. The club will say who it is, because I think the only time we've left a senior player out is when Miles Kenlock was left out previously.
Yes, all right, yeah. And where's Miles Kenlock these days? Is it Barnet or something? No.
I think he has signed for Barnet. It was at Ipswich, and I think he signed for Barnet this year with Nick Hayes. But
a lot of
is an option that Kieran Slicker has left out the 25-man squad.
Yeah. And that we were expecting a loan there, weren't we, as well? But still time to, squad Tetris to be done. Evening to Holly. Evening, Rich. Question to you both. Of course, we've had several injuries to key players. Do you think this will have a major impact for later? I think probably, Joe, I think it's, as we said before, I think it's caused us to have to get deals done for upgrades, certainly, but maybe players that we hadn't anticipated doing. But there's a lot of players that we will hope can contribute, Broadhead, Burns, Hurst, that now need to go through pre-season again. So to Holly's point, is that maybe the issue, that these players might get back to fitness, but match fitness at the Premier League level as well, which they're not accustomed to? That's a whole other ballgame, isn't it?
Yeah, and you wonder whether some of the injuries are because of that we've tried to step up the physicality in pre-season, and they haven't been able to push, and their bodies just have hit a ceiling. And while we try and do a bit more, they found it too tough. We won't know, but it does feel like, especially for Burns, Broadhead, and George Hurst, have been three of our sort of most important players over the last 18 months or so, that these injuries could not just cost them their sort of shot in the Premier League. It just means that they might not get their run of games that they would have had they been fit. Because if Broadhead had been fit, he'd have started against Liverpool. He'd have definitely stayed on a bit more. If George Hurst had been fit, he'd have had good minutes over these last ones. And Wes Burns obviously did start against Liverpool and then has gone off.
Yeah. So I think, Holly, that's where we stand on that one. That's a great question. And we wish, again, there's a lot of chat about the influx of new players, but the likes of Broadhead, Burns in particular, Hurst, such key players last season. You want to keep them around and keep that team spirit. David, hopefully team spirit will be the same this season, worth a bundle. David's got a point there. There's a large influx of players. Of course, there's a profile, a type of player that we've signed. I really liked Benner. I thought his interview was great on Town TV. He seemed like a really positive character, someone who's keen to develop and learn. But to David's point, that character, that profile of player is in the building as well. And we don't want to lose that too much, Joe, by, too much wholesale change.
No, and it's going to be very, very important for Sam Morsey to keep managing that dressing room against players who are probably bigger name than him, bigger wages. It's going to be tough for him to do that, but we know he's a fantastic leader, a fantastic captain, and hopefully he'll be the one that with Kieran McKenna they can do it like they did last year. The players keeping the standard up, but like anything and big squads, everything's easy if you're doing well. So
yeah, good point.
If we're winning games and picking up points and somewhere up in mid-table, then everyone's going to be happy. No one's going to be knocking on the manager's door, but when things go badly results-wise, that's when it makes it much more difficult to manage.
Yeah, good call. Very good call.
But there seems to be a great culture at the club. The people we've signed. So you listen to Jacob Greaves. He's sort of came across so well. He came to the Bobby Robson suite after the game against Liverpool when he was man of the match. Cheo Ogbene. I had sort of two people in the game who have come across him and sort of out of the blue just messaged me to tell me how sort of fantastic a person he is, what a great guy he is. Good luck to him. So glad he signed for Ipswich, and he's just someone that's just got fantastic reviews from everyone who's sort of ever worked with him. So it does seem like the guys we've signed are great characters and will be sort of fit right in with what we've got here, which is a non-negotiable.
Yeah, and Phillips has already done stuff for the foundation, has he, this week as well? So that's the kind of stuff you want to see, particularly with if Edmondson's deal to Middlesbrough happens, he's been a really strong public advocate for the foundation and all their excellent work. We're saying that we're a friend of the foundation, I think, this season. I think you can do likewise. You can donate and support their activity there, but your super chats and that kind of stuff enables us to support the club and the foundation as we do with that kind of stuff. So that's the kind of stuff that you want to see players getting involved in as well, because there's a choice there, I think, and a choice not to get involved, and you want to see people kind of doing it for the affirmative. So good on Calvin Phillips. Colin, a question for me: do you like myself? Do you think we can finish 14th or even better? Colin, I don't. I know you can be the optimist to my slight pessimist. I'm with there's more than enough quality to stay up. I'm pretty confident about that, but tomorrow, Joe, I know that McKenna has kind of said he really hates this idea that the season starts tomorrow, and or Saturday, depending on when you're listening or watching to this. And I totally get where he's coming from there, but the level of opposition relative to us is much more akin to Fulham than it is to Man City and Liverpool, and so we'll really know where we stand tomorrow, albeit still early days, isn't it? But do you want to answer Colin's question as well? Your thoughts on where we might finish?
I think we could finish above 14th somewhere there. Okay. Because if you stay up, generally there's a big bunching of teams between 13th and 17th, and it might be that finishing 13th is at 4 points more than finish 17th. And I think we're good enough to, if we're good enough to stay up, we're good enough to finish in 13th, 14th place. So if I was to bet on it, I'd probably say we'd be a little bit lower, sort of 15th, 16th, somewhere in that range. And but like every Ipswich fan, I think anything 17th or above, everyone will be delighted with. And
yes, please.
I think we will get there. I think it will be a tough few weeks coming up as we try and integrate the squad, and there's a lot of new signings, and it might be sort of one step backwards to try and take two forwards with it at a time. So I wouldn't get too. You don't want people to get too behind, but people will do, and you've just got to try and stay confident, keep the faith in the team, keep the faith in doing what we're doing. I do worry a little bit that people have seen Liverpool, Man City, and then see Fulham tomorrow. So, that's a good, easy game to come up, but it really isn't. Fulham are a really good side, and that's going to be a really tough game. A really good side for a really good manager, and if we get something out of that game, it'll be a great result. But people don't go into that game tomorrow just expecting us to roll them over because we've won sort of 40 games at Portman Road across the last 2 seasons. It's not going to be the case.
Well, and off the back of a really lousy performance midweek, let's be honest, let's call it what it is. So, as we said, the pre-match show gives you the intel on Fulham. We obviously played them last season, and I think they probably scored us, even with the second string team in the Carabao Cup. So, we shouldn't take anything for granted. Get behind the boys as well tomorrow. Trust the process, all those great things that we like to say. But as Richard has said here, if we lose tomorrow, so a good Fulham side, there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth. But with all the quality in, we need to hold a nerve with the vast majority of the season to go. Yeah, he's absolutely right. And that chimes with your perspective as well. As Neil says here, going to take us 6 weeks to hit our stride. Patience required and we'll stay up. There you go. Zorak says, will Clark now get the 11 shirt because Harness has vacated it? I don't think you can do that, can you?
No, because he's still contracted to the club, so he is not able to take that. So that can't happen. Freddie Ladapo's number 29 shirt is now available, so that's one. But there is a update here from there's now Albanian journalist who's tweeted quite a lot of comments, and he's basically saying we agreed to take Brozier on loan with no option to buy, but Chelsea now want a permanent sale now, and it could still happen.
Drama. But this guy, we don't know. He's been quite active, isn't he, and quite responsive to replies. But we're not necessarily sure we can fully bank on him yet.
No. We don't know. But he's obviously someone who is close to Breuer. He is got an interview with him on his channel, and he's
maybe it's him.
Put a lot of information out there. So yeah.
15 minutes.
But it sounds like Osimhen has not agreed terms with Chelsea, and Conte said he's not going to play him, so he's a little bit in limbo. But maybe there is one big last twist to come.
Oh, drama. Jake, Oasis tickets secured tonight. Good for you.
Here we go. Jacob Steinberg has just tweeted, who we know is quite well connected at the Guardian. 10:44 strikers. Osimhen to Chelsea not happening. Armando Broja to Ipswich looking very unlikely. So that is he's very well connected at Chelsea, Jacob Steinberg.
That was a very quick up and down in the space of 5 seconds, Joe. I was like, oh no, the Roy Hodgson gif definitely in real life. There, it's like, and Seb has just reiterated that as well. But good on you, Jake. Enjoy Oasis. I will be joining the massive online queue to try and get tickets tomorrow. Joe, are you doing likewise?
Yes, I've got to try and do it from the side of a grassroots football pitch in the morning. So
lucky you. Good luck.
Hopefully my signal helps me out.
Hopefully you're fine.
Good luck to everybody. And if anyone does get one and you've got 1 or 2 spare, let me know, because I will definitely have it off you. Joe
Fairs. Or if you want to take him in corporate, or the whole podcast team, just let us know. I'm very happy to sort you out there. So William, the number 9 shirt looks like it'll be Alex Crook.
Well, Reece Nelson might take it.
Yeah. Well, Seb now saying Alex Crook reporting Fulham are now leading the race for Nelson. That's according to Seb. Alex Crook, I think. Don't do this to us, Seb.
Yeah, Alex Crook is Talk Sport, isn't he?
There you go.
Well, there was a one from Fabrizio Romano, saying Ernest Nuama deal to Fulham is now on the verge of collapsing after new issues currently off. So they were going for him. So maybe they've just come in with a big offer there, which now means we might be back for Breuer. I think Breuer's a better fit for us.
Yeah, he's a number 9
for what we need in the squad. I don't think Nelson. You look at the options we got, and you think, well, where is he going to fit in? But it's I don't know. It's going to be what is going on? We don't know, but. There'll be some deal sheets going in.
It was me giving it the big one to Fulham earlier, wasn't it? It's my turn to have tempted fate. Never mind. Keep us posted in the chat. A question from Alex. Let's assume that things are still progressing in the way that we've anticipated for the whole of the last hour and 45. Question for Joe, as he seems to know about this stuff. How do we get a medical done on Reece Nelson when it's this last minute? I think we kind of alluded to it might be a bit of a cursory medical rather than anything that was in depth. But
yeah, it's more about speaking to their medical teams and trying if there's any sort of old scans that we can look at, bits like that. But you are going in a little bit blind here. You are taking a leap of faith, but you have to trust their professionals on their side and go on that side. And because there's nothing you can do at this stage.
I realised that I'm massively behind on the chat because we're now getting to the point where people are giving you lots of praise, Joe. Solly, Joe is a Rolls Royce star of Blue Monday for many years. Not
Keep it
my
coming.
words. Thanks, Rich and Joe, says Dr. Zach King. There you go. I think that was meant to be an emoji. It's not really worked, but that's a medal for you there, Joe. And Streaky asking the same question that I tried to avoid. Ben, what's the favourite button to press? Shall I do it now? Can I play the editor's music? I did threaten it just to buy us a little bit more time. Drink
Do it again.
I'm going to play the intro. That's my favourite button to press. Great, because I get to the air drum, Ben. I get to pretend that I'm Ed Lay of editors. So I'm going to press it now and buy us a little bit of breathing space. Here's editors for 22 seconds. I really hope that there is someone who's got this on their telly who might be getting towards 11 o'clock and maybe falling asleep and drifting off, and editors has just woken them up thinking, I'm sure I've watched this podcast already, but no. There you go. So thank you, Ben, for asking the question and allow me to press the button. And I've now finished my water, but we're going to continue going through. There you go, Jeremy. Lots of compliments. This is what we want. Yeah, I think getting some predictions coming in, score predictions. Ornstein reporting that Sterling has just arrived at Arsenal training ground. There we go. We're like Odin Wingy, isn't it?
Yeah, Edouard is just signing for Leicester now. That's sort of about to go through as well.
What else have we got? Joel, yeah, so Southampton have also spent 100 million plus, he says, this window. Who's had the better window, Joe?
I can't say I've looked too closely at their business. They've obviously made some good signings in there. Taylor Harwood Bellis, Flynn Downs, but they've had to make sort of £40 million worth of signings just to stand still with where they were yesterday, signing two of their loan players. They've obviously signed Ryan Fraser tonight. I don't know if there's a fee in that, but that's another signing just to stand still. So I'd say we've probably improved our squad the most, but they had a better squad in the first place.
Yep, fair dues. Tom just joined. Welcome, Tom. That was about 10 minutes ago. Our business has been solid, he says, but tinged with sadness seeing the players that have been on the journey start to drop off. Cutthroat business. So, I mean, that's generally we said our owners are not mucking about a few times, Joe, and we don't fall in love with loan players, but seemingly don't fall in love with League One promoted players and Championship promoted players either.
Yeah, it's sad. And whilst we've lost sort of in the previous year, we'd lost like Kyle Edwards and Greg Lee, who'd been a small part of it. Some of the guys we're losing now, so Caden Jackson, Marcus Harness, these George Edmondson, these guys have been sort of starters at one point in the season and sort of ended up as just the subs effectively. But no, they've both had big contributions to that sort of double promotion, that sort of 2-year period that none of us will ever forget. And hopefully that 2-year period becomes a 3, 4, 5-year period that we never forget. But yeah, it is sad. And whilst we're losing these ones, it's soon, maybe in a year's time, we could be losing Connor Chaplin, Wes Burns, like Cameron Burgess has not played in the league yet so far. Luke Wolfenden, who's been with the club a long time. These guys that have come in and been with the key players in the journey, they might not be here for much longer. Yeah. Sort of another year or two, or sort of phased out, and they want to go and play more football elsewhere. But that is football. If the club keeps going, you've got to be a fantastic player to keep up with it. Leif Davis is keeping up with it. Sam Moores is keeping up with it. Amari Hutchison's keeping up with it. But the rest is hugely difficult to go from League One to the Premier League, and not many players manage it.
No, indeed. Neil saying Blue Monday sorted this to keep figures up until the end. The figures are great. If you're joining us late, do give us a thumbs up and a subscribe. We appreciate that. Thank you so much. But I would love to feel like we've got that level of influence, Joe. What would have more likely happened is if we'd ended it at 10, the deal would have happened at 10:01, wouldn't it? So we have just dragged things out maybe. But hopefully with 6 minutes officially left, hopefully stuff is happening. Stuart, love you. Rich is brilliant. Love that. Thank you very much. But yeah, Fulham now reported to be scuppering the Reece Nelson deal. We will keep an eye out for that.
Does Breuer happen if Nelson doesn't?
Well, yeah. Well, whatever happens, we are just after the window slams shut. I think that's Joe and I done for the evening. We are not going to wait and see. And again, us dropping off, it might suddenly happen. But thank you to all the love that's coming in. Romeo, whole Blue Monday team are superb. We're lucky to have you, Romeo. Thank you for getting involved as you do every week. And I think you're part of the Telegram VIPs as well. So we love that. Hello to Matthew Coward. Superb effort. Big game tomorrow. Come on, you Blues. There he says. Good. Yeah, good. I'm running out of stuff. What I might do, Joe, with the window now officially 5 minutes before it formally closes. We know stuff can linger on afterwards. What I might do is just shove up on the screen the graphics of our deals done today. A little bit of overlap. I think I've got everyone on there. Apologies if I missed someone and someone can correct me. And the fees are very much approximate on the basis of a currency conversion from transfer marked. But I think that is the extent of our business, Joe. I think there's 12 players there. I hope there is.
Yeah.
The poll in the live chat had a great window, 61%. So generally people very happy. 16% saying perfect. Look at that list of players. Could you have imagined that at the start of the window? I guess
no. Yeah, you were hoping for something along those lines. The players I'd sort of picked out at the end of last season was Amari Hutchinson. Obviously, everyone had Jack Greaves, Liam Delap, and then sort of looking at the rest, not ones I'd never in a million years thought Calvin Phillips would sign here. Ben Johnson, people were mentioning his name at sort of the back end of last season. I was thinking, well, no, he's going to go to a bigger club than us. He's leaving West Ham to get Premier League football, and I didn't expect us to be in for him. And that was one announced quite quickly and seems a good signing there. And then I think it's that sort of middle bit, that Clark, O'Shea, Smodics, Muric, Ogbene. Those sort of five are players who have excelled in the Championship and in some cases had good Premier League seasons in O'Shea, Muric, or the limited part in Ogbene. So yeah, just Clark and Smodics, the two guys in the Championship that were the absolute goal creators, goal scorers in there. And over the last, they are the ones who, well, like I say, should give us the goals we need and who have earned that step up to the Premier League. And to go with Jacob Greaves, who was in the team of the season, Amari, who was the best, for me, he was the best player in the run-in in the Championship. I know I wouldn't say he started slowly, but he was phased into the team over the course of the season. But in that sort of last 3 months, I'd say Mikey called him Amari Clutchinson, and he was as the games got bigger, he got better. Where normally in that first loan, that these young players in their first senior season sort of slip back as you get to the business end of the season as the fatigue hits them. So yeah, it's just a brilliantly managed loan spell.
It's looking more and more like this will be the extent of the business with Sky now reporting.
Yeah, Dharma Chef has said it. Yeah, Reece Nelson now going to Fulham, not Ipswich. Deal sheet being submitted to get the deal done in time. We've been gazumped on it.
There you go. And I was really cocky about it too. And look where it's got me, hubris. I mean, another thing to comment on, Joe, transfer record, long-standing transfer record has been smashed, a few times, but has been massively exceeded 8 times this window. Something we haven't really talked too much about, but again, a statement of ambition, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and so I think because I said it earlier, because Amari was the first one, we smashed the record, and then the rest have just been other signings where there's, I'd say, 8 most expensive signings in history are now on that list, and the top 8 there this summer, they'll all say sort of 2024, summer 2024 is going to be first 8th on that list. And if things go as we want them to over the next couple of seasons, these 8 will be dropped down the list, and there'll be another 8 ahead of them.
Yeah, and if all goes well, there's a lot of players here of an age that could be with us for the duration of their contracts. I know we kind of look at the contracts as a financial mechanism at times, but you look at O'Shea, Clark, Delap, Greaves, Hutchinson. This could be
all 4 and 5 year contracts.
The core of this, if we stay up, either these players hopefully go on to bigger things and we get that money and reinvest it. We
have a confirmation on the Ipswich Town website. George joins Borough on loan. George Edmondson has joined Middlesbrough on loan for the 24-25 season. The 27-year-old defender who's played 1 game so far this term, having come off the bench against Manchester City last weekend, will seek regular game time at Michael Carrick's Borough. George's first game for the Teesside club could be at home to Preston North End on 14th of September. We wish George all the best during his time at the Riverside Stadium. So George has gone.
There you go. And I've actually prepared, look, graphic, done deal. I have been doing stuff in the background, multitasking. So not the one we wanted to be using, but there you go. Confirmation. I'll update the crawler there with the 1 minute away from the formal end of the window, Joe. We know stuff will continue afterwards. Fabrizio saying Nelson and Broja off, according to Seb. And on that point, Joe, assuming neither of these deals get done, this is still a decent window. The majority of the chat kind of described it as a great window. It still is, isn't it? I mean, of course, we probably would have wanted to get one more done, but we're in a really great position. Anyway, try and reassure us.
Yeah, it's obviously frustrating because you've had a fantastic window, but we've clearly been chasing another signing right up until the very last second of the window. And it does, I wouldn't say it makes you worried, but it means the manager wanted at least one more player. And we have been in this position with a striker in the last couple of windows. In the season in League One, we signed Ghassan Ahadmi as a sort of last minute panic signing, and he was injured, really didn't really play a huge amount, and we really struggled in that first half of the season with just Freddie Ladapo as a striker. And then similar in the championship season where we had George Hurst and we were flogging him at the end because it was such a drop off from George Hurst to Freddie Ladapo at this point. And you just like we're in a better position because we do have two good strikers. It's just one is injured at the moment with Delap and Hurst, but you really wanted a third one in there. So it now means Ali Al-Hamdi is going to play a sort of big part over the next few weeks as the first Iraqi in the Premier League, and he's going to need to step up quite quickly on it. But yeah, it does seem like both deals are off. Fabrizio has said he has said that Reece Nelson and Mendel-Idowu to Ipswich Town, both deals are off. So that does seem fairly conclusive. But I guess maybe we'll wake up to something in the morning, but it doesn't seem like that. It seems like Reece Nelson, we prioritised getting his deal done and thought we had it done until the very last minute. So you wonder what's happened there. I assume Fulham have written a big check and it's not one that we wanted to match.
Some bad blood in the boardroom tomorrow at Portman Road for the Fulham game. We have made it to 2 hours. We've made it to the window officially slamming shut. Stuff might still happen. So many of you are here lingering. So we'll do a couple of extra bits and pieces. We need to point you in the direction of the pre-match show, the prediction show, Flagship, back on Sunday, 8 p.m. live to talk about the Fulham game. Please, before you go, do give us a thumbs up and a subscribe if you've been with us and stuck with us. We appreciate you so much for making this a really enjoyable, interactive show. Maybe not gone the way we were hoping for, but nevertheless, the headline, Joe, is a really exciting winner. A lot of talent brought in. Just needs time to gel.
Yeah, and the fans need to make sure they give the players time and stay behind the team. I've been watching Southampton and Leicester, and their fans don't seem to be particularly bothered about being back in the Premier League, where you compare that. I know it's different. We were playing Liverpool in our first game in the Premier League for 22 years, but that atmosphere at Portman Road has driven the team on over the last 2 to 3 seasons since Kieran McKenna's come in. So it's really, really important that we keep doing that, because we are the sort of 12th man, effectively. I know it's a cliche, but we've been a really, really good crowd for 2 seasons. We need to keep doing that.
Yep, agreed. And it starts tomorrow at Fulham. Joe, do you want to give us your prediction for that one?
I predict a win. We're at home. We like to win at home, and I'm sure there'll be an extra bit of tension there now that we've just lost out on Reece Nelson to Fulham right at the very last minute of the window.
Yep, indeed. Thank you, everyone, so much for joining. The numbers just peaked right now as well as we were signing off. Got a few predictions. If you want to get them in very quickly, we'll put them up on the screen. But thank you, everyone, for watching. The polling in our live chat confirmed that everyone is happy. Satisfied is underplaying it. Really strong window. Ideally, we'd have got something done. We were here for 2 hours. We're hoping we'd make it happen. Sadly, it hasn't happened. Hopefully, something might secretly happen overnight. You never know. But hopefully, we've got a 2-1 for Colin, or at least a 1-1 for Neil. But thank you, everyone, for watching. I think that's it, Joe. I think that's it. We can take our yellow shirts.
Yeah. It also means we are if we don't have any late deals, which we're not expecting at the moment, we are at 25 senior squad players, so everyone stays. Jack Taylor and Ali Al-Hamidi stay, so we are at 25 with George Edmondson and Marcus Harness going out.
Yeah, and as Trevor says, didn't rate Nelson anyway, so didn't need him.
I think Reece Nelson's a fantastic player, but I think it was sort of clear while we were looking at this, it did seem quite a hard signing to fit into our squad. I was struggling to work out where he was going to fit in, so I'm sure McKenna would have found a way to get the most out of him, but we'll never know now on where he was expecting to play, and maybe we go back in for Armando Broya in January.
Who knows? Well, once again, thank you everyone for getting involved in the chat. Appreciate it. Joe, thank you particularly for you. You've kind of held this together. Thank you to Seb for keeping me informed via WhatsApp. I'm off to change the Telegram group transfer chat back into Matchday chat, and I will be bloody delighted to see it.
We're still in deal sheet time. You can't do that.
Oh, damn it! I'm going to do it anyway. Who cares? Joe, thank you so much. Everyone else, thank you so much. We'll see you on Sunday for the flagship show. And come on, you Blues, for tomorrow or Saturday when you're watching this. Big game against Fulham. We'll be back to talk about it on Sunday. Joe, cheers. Good luck for Oasis tickets, everyone. And we'll see you soon. Here's some editors again.